Well, deep into the Ardennes we go then, as we venture to one of the most instantly recognisable and historic venues in all of world motorsport, and of course here in sim racing, as we venture to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for 2.4 hours of thrilling racing. The rolling thunder of GT3 action will take to the Ardennes Forest once again, and the commentary booth will unfortunately drown out some of the beautiful noise of those cars. My name's Lewis McGlade, Cameron Roger and Darragh Thacker will be alongside me here for the RaceRoom ranked 2.4 hours of Spa. Cam, we always say this when we come to these, we love these special events, these kind of one-offs throughout the year that we do every now and then. They're so much fun. It's always hotly contested at the front though.
Yeah, certainly is. They are very competitive races. We go to multiple of the best tracks on the calendar. Of course, we've been to Dubai, we've been to Bathurst as well over the course of this year so far already, and Spa is going to be just the same. It's, of course, a very interesting one with the strategy as well around here. So, yeah, looking forward to this evening's race.
Certainly so, and of course it's not just Cam Roger, there is Dareth Thacker in the booth as well. Now you joined us back, you were actually the Race Room Rank Championship, you joined us for the Bathurst 2 hour a bit earlier on. These are crazy races. You're starting to get the picture on that one. Just because they're ranked, just because basically anyone can come along and take part, and there's 8 servers of racing, by the way, going on today. These are a lot of fun, but they are really tough to win.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, as Cam mentioned, Dubai and Bathurst, they are really good fights all the way through the race, all through the 2+ hours that we have. And it is so difficult to find a way through the consistency all the way through that race. And yeah, it's going to be difficult to win here in Spa. I think there are quite a few contenders who'll be thinking that they can come home with the victory.
You can see the circuit ahead of us here, opened back in 1921, so over 100 years of action and service in the world of motorsport. Me and Cam have actually visited this place recently. I've not spoken about it enough, Cam. It is a beautiful venue, 7 kilometres in length, and of course the big undulations being the big part of it. Everyone talks about it, is that when you see it in game, when you see it on TV, it never does it justice. When you come and see it in person, those rises and falls, the dips and crests are just insane.
Yeah, they don't make them like they used to when it comes to tracks like this. As you say, it's right in the hills. There's not really a flat part of the track. Every single straight or corner has some sort of elevation change, and it actually makes it quite difficult around here. Of course, you've got the massive uphill climb in the first half of the track before you come downhill in Sector 2. You've got corners like Pouon or the double gauche there in the middle. The double left hand is so difficult in these cars, off camber as well, before coming in towards the Pifaf chicane. It's certainly a tricky circuit around here, and it's very unique with that, and it's definitely a driver's favourite, and that's why, as you say, we've got multiple servers going out there today, definitely getting the RaceRoom community involved.
Don't you dare be calling it double gauche. Goodness me. Well, that's the circuit. These are the cars. Of course, we're racing in GT3s. It'll be the Audi R8 Evo, BMW M4. Always love a bit of the BMW M4, even though it is ugly as sin. BMW Continental Evo, Callaway Corvette C7 GT3R, Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, McLaren 720, Mercedes-AMG GT3, and of course the Porsche 911 GT3, which of course for those of you that are watching and thinking, hey, there's a Porsche pack coming out on RaceRoom fairly soon. Yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the broadcast. We do get to see the old school Porsche going out onto circuit and normally being driven at a high speed by the likes of Cody Nikola Latkovsky and sometimes even Christian Greta as well. I think they swapped it out for a Bentley in today's action. Let's take a look at the entry list as well, because there is a great list of drivers taking part. Mari Sabdi, Guillaume Vigneron as well. Cody Nikola Latkovsky, one driver who'll definitely be focused on taking victory today. Christian Greta, you've got the 2 Mackenbergs, Marvin and Sven Mackenberg. Rui Felipe in there as well. We've spoken about the charge that Julian Kunzes had, some of the things that we've seen him in recently. Obviously one of the esports professionals that we've seen taking part in many a large championship up towards the front. Mikhail Lapanik involved as well. It's a strong entry list. A lot of names, obviously, that you're getting used to, Dara, but like I say, when you come into these ones, it is kind of one of those things of you're looking at a grid of 34 or so drivers, and at the very least 10 of these can win.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we see a lot of these guys in the rank championship across all 3 categories, so they are very flexible in what they're driving, and they are very good in quite a lot of the different series. We've got loads of names in here that the Mackenberg brothers, Luca D'Amico, you can see on your screen. There are some great drivers who have lots of pedigree at this level, and will definitely feel like they are at least in with a shout of getting near the front of the race, trying to win Spa 2.4 hour. But with a grid so crowded as this with the names, it's difficult to pick a winner without even the end of qualifying.
Yeah, and like I say, 2.4 hours is a long time in the race. Qualifying does not mean everything. You can also start to see some of the spread of cars that we've got out there. A lot of Bentleys being taken as we can take a look into qualifying at the moment. It's been a half an hour session, of which 22 minutes basically have already been completed. Sven Mackenberg completing a lap not in the best style that you would see. And of course, the session being topped by this man here, Julian Kunze. Although I've got to say, his first sector, It's one of those natures of Spa, of course. Each car reacts to each sector differently, setups, etc., etc., etc. His first sector's not great. I've seen a lot of drivers going purple in the first sector. Most recent of those is Marvin Mackenberg. I've seen Cody Nikolakowski go purple in that first sector by even close to 0.2 of a second. That could show well, Cam, for the race.
Yeah, it's certainly a track of two halves. You've got the straights, of course, in Sector 1 and Sector 3, but then all the corners in Sector 2. If you have a car that's good in either of them, you'll certainly start to light up the timing screens in this qualifying session. Then when we get to the race, you might see some drivers having a little bit of an easier time overtaking, or a driver having an easier time actually defending in that middle sector. Certainly the way that the BOP goes between the cars. So definitely, something to look out for. We have a host of different GT3 cars today for this 2.4 hours. But here's Kunze coming out of the final corner to set this lap time. 7 minutes left in the session. It's going to be, is he going to do any sort of improvement? Is he going to keep himself in P1? Keep himself, of course, but by 0.2 to Latkovsky.
Yeah, and there's lots of guys going fast, I think, as well. I think Grote, he was going quickly, but I think that was... but Parvan, half a second down in that middle sector, but towards the end of the lap, it looks like he may be close to try making an improvement on the position, but he doesn't in the end, I don't believe, or he doesn't in the end. No. Yeah, there is a lot of competition, especially down in that bottom half of the top 20.
Well, here's Florian Vuthrik. We've got a couple of Vuthriks out on the circuit as we see Kovalevsky getting his way up into 16th position. A lot of purple sectors happening down there, including Tatara. Vuthrik also was one that set one. So, again, there's clearly a lot of pace in that first sector. Vlad Tatara crosses the line. No improvement there. Marvin Mackenberg up by nearly 1.5 in that first sector. So looking very strong for him. Car-wise, obviously shares the same vehicle that Julian Kunze does, who's taking... Is that an Aston Martin? No, it's a Bentley. Had to get a shot out there at you, Dara. Sorry, mate. Also, Julian Kunze is going faster in the first sector. No worries, that is how it's going to go all day long. It's
certainly going to be going backwards and forwards between a couple of these drivers. And actually looking at that sector that Mackenberg on the screen has just done, Kunze out on another lap is slower only by about half or just over half a tenth of a second. Parvan out there is a couple of tenths down as well. So some very close lap times coming the way. Of course, they've had about 25 minutes already of this qualifying session, so they're pretty much up to speed. It's now all about fine-tuning and trying to find those last little bits to improve your lap time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of drivers going purple again now in that first sector. Lewis, you mentioned it. Kunze's first sector isn't the best, but, you know, Marvin Mackenberg, we see, is improving. We'll have to see if he can jump to the top of the time sheets, maybe just onto the front row, but he does look like he has a little bit of time in hand. Kunze as well. He went purple in the first sector, a little bit slower in that middle, and Berta as well, the Norwegian driver, currently in 6th, but there's a lot of time that can be found by these drivers, and Mackenberg is going to run to the line. Can he find it? Not quite enough. He's 5th. Yeah, I mean, I think we might see someone right at the end of the session pull out a lap.
Yeah, I think he knew that there wasn't going to be any major improvement there, because if you look at the time left in the session, just 4 minutes 30 seconds left to go in this session. What that means is that realistically speaking, they've got a lap, maybe 2 laps left to go in this session. It's 2 minutes 17 seconds, which is what Julian Kunze set in this session. So there is not long to improve. A purple first sector, I'm not sure if that is actually purple, but he's actually tracking to be a very similar time as to what Marvin Mackenberg was doing. Marvin Mackenberg was a 10th up in the first sector, lost half a second in that middle sector. Alessandro Botti crosses the line, currently in 10th position, improves up to 7th, just behind Christian Grote. So some of these drivers do have a little bit of time in hand.
Oh yes, they certainly do. And as ever, you have to finish your lap within the time limit as well. So yeah, you'll need to be leaving or starting your final lap in about a minute's time if you want to absolutely confirm that. But here is Marvin Mackenberg up in that first sector. He is enjoying that. But at least so far, we've seen him around that sector a few times, but it was in the 3rd sector on that previous lap where he just backed out of the lap. Is this going to be the one, though, where he can bring it back? 5th place as it stands. He'll be wanting to improve that after his 6th place finish here last year.
Yeah, I think he'll also want to be trying to improve in front of his brother, who's a couple of spaces in front. About a tenth and a half in it between those two, but he is a tenth and a half up on the time Mackenberg through that first sector. But we've got 3 purples in the top 6 there for the first sector, but it's just no one seems to be able to piece it together in the middle sector, quite like Kunze did on his one of his banker laps, because that was quite early on in the session, he said that time.
Well, see Marvin Mackenberg come through this second sector. I'm taking a look at these sector times. Again, it's around about a tenth and a half up in the first sector. He's actually lost about 4/10 in the middle. It's actually not that bad. Christian Grote in the similar sort of boat, only really going actually about a tenth faster than Marvin Mackenberg at the moment. Comparatively, Julian Kunze is up by half a tenth of a second in the first sector on his own time, of course, and generally in the session. Cody Nikolakowski also goes purple in that first sector as Julian Kunze bails off of his lap time. Let's see what Marvin Mackenberg can do, though, as he'll cross the line. Is there going to be any major improvement for him? Currently sits in 5th position. The answer to that question is no. Next one will be Christian Grote, and he does. He improves to 3rd.
Nice lap by him, and that is going to be a good jump up there by a few tenths a second, because of course the lap times are so close. You can do a few jumps. Here's the other Mackenberg, Sven. It is only slightly purple in that first sector by half a tenth of a second. If you're wanting to catch down Grote as it stands, he needs about, to be honest, just over half a tenth, about a tenth it will be, although that is not going to be the way that he would have wanted. He's going to come back. There's not enough time though, so that is going to be his session finished, as there'll be a few other drivers just about squeezing in this final lap.
Yeah, I think quite a lot of drivers are kind of struggling a little bit. Here is Yuval Rosen, who will not have the time to set a qualifying lap, so he'll be starting from the rear of the field. But we know his pace could be quite a mega charge through the field. Jose Luis Gamero is one that is kind of improving a little bit in the first sector. He doesn't have enough time to finish the lap. Carl Dubois as well, also in that kind of vein. I think Coughlin as well, or who just bails from his lap now. There's a lot of drivers that are kind of close to some form of improvement, but nothing too major. I'll see if there is any improvement from those further down in the field.
I think there is. There's a couple. Yeah, I think Beer here is looking like he might improve. He's only 1.1 seconds off Julian Kunze's time, but again, it's tight in that in the area of the teens. Van Roon in 13th, Sanchez, Brunig as well. As we'll see if the B can make any kind of inroads. He's currently 17th, but as he runs to the line, can he improve on the position? Not quite. He stays in P17. I think that'll pretty much be that.
Yeah, that is the finish of the session. A couple seconds left, of course, when this results screen comes up. But it looks like going to be Kunze leading the way by 0.2 of a second. And that's actually quite a big margin. There is quite close lap times, but it's only 1 second a lap to 10th place. So definitely a bit of an advantage for these drivers at the front. But anything can happen over the 2.4 hours. Lekowski there in 2nd place, and he actually also finished 2nd in the race here last year, so he'll be trying to go one better and beat Kunze when we get to the race in a few moments' time.
Yeah, see if Kunze's got the strategy in hand, but we'll have to wait and see. It's been an interesting qualifying session, but Julian Kunze is the driver that is topping it all. Of course, in a few moments' time, we'll be going to the race for the RaceRoom Spa 2.4 hour. Do not go anywhere. We're just going to take a very short break, and then we'll get into race mode. And so the race just ahead of us. Again, 2.4 hours here in the race room ranked. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got about 2 minutes of them out in warm-ups. They're just getting used to the heavy, heavy fuel loads in the cars. In the commentary booth, myself, Liz McGlade, Cam Roger, Darragh Thacker, of course, we're taking through all of the action through tonight's race. Qualifying over, Kunze on pole. I've got to say, Cam, coming into it, kind of where I would have expected things to go. We know Kunze is absolutely rapid and has been on RaceRoom for a very long time.
Yeah, certainly, and not just him, but the drivers around him as well. The top 5, top 6, all drivers that you'd expect to be up there, and it's actually pretty close to the result of last year. Lakovsky is up there. Grota, he finished 7th last year. Mackenberg, he finished 3rd last year. They're 3rd and 4th today, 2nd row of the grid. Then we've obviously got Lapanik, who is up there normally. Then Marvin Mackenberg, he finished 6th last year as well. So yeah, all the top names up there once again. So yeah, definitely going to be a very competitive race. But as ever with these 2.4 hours, the strategy is going to be interesting because you can, in theory, do a one-stop strategy with some fuel saving. So we want to see who goes for that, or if anyone goes aggressive on a 2-stop.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, on our screen at the moment, I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. We'll touch on it a little bit as well throughout the broadcast. We've got a Porsche on our screen. Now, obviously, Porsche's kind of a hot talking point at the moment on RaceRoom, courtesy of the Porsche Pack, which will be released next week after the 2nd round of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship, the KTM GTX Trophy. When we go into that, obviously in just a week, so that'll be a lot of fun. Obviously, Darragh, you'll be on there with you and O'Leary. They're a lot of fun. These RaceRoom Ranked Championship stuff that we've been doing, they've been a lot of fun.
Yes, they really have. I mean, all 3 of the races at Autodrom Most for the first round were absolutely fantastic, and there was so much action in each of the categories. Yeah, you're right. The KTM GTX I did with you, and there was a lot of action at turn 1 on most laps, and again throughout the season, I think we're going to see quite a bit of that. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of the drivers do multiple series as well, so they get feels for different cars, but they're still quick in all of them, and it creates an interesting dynamic when some drivers are faster in some cars and some in others.
Yeah, and that's what makes it a lot of fun. But again, that is for next week. This is for now. The RaceRoom Spa 2.4 hours is about to get underway. It's going to be a long race. Again, 7 kilometres of a race circuit. It is a tricky one for these drivers to manage time and time again. We have 35 cars in this split, but again, a reminder, we do have 8 races going on in the background as well. It's incredible. Again, RaceRoom's constantly growing. It is building up and up and up. The community's getting bigger and bigger. And when you have some of the biggest esports names taking part as well, and when you get some of them taking part in these kind of championships, like Julian Kunze, it's a really good time to be in RaceRoom. Kunze will start this one from pole position alongside Cody Nikola Latkovsky, though. Christian Grota, Sven Mackenberg on the 2nd row of the grid, and that race down towards La Source is about to begin. The lights are on and the race is about to get underway, and it is a decent launch from Julian Kunze as we all fan our way out. It's not a great start though from Christian Grota, who's going to lose out to Sven Mackenberg on the race down towards that first corner. Julian Kunze with the whole shot as we head through La Source on that 2-kilometre run down towards Les Combes. Yellow flag already comes out because Van Roon's been sent round at the first corner, so he drops right the way to the rear of the field, the Dutchman in that Audi R8 that's at the background of shot. But Julian Kunze, Cam, on the rise up the hill is leading the race as Mariusz Sabdi is the next one to have problems.
Yeah, and he's got a nice lead out the front there, so the top drivers getting through nicely in this first sector, but of course we'll try and keep you up to date with the things coming in behind. Side by side, a little bit further in the background, is Alessandro Botti trying to make a position up the inside of Lapanik for a little bit further down. It's actually Mackenberg trying to go side by side through the Les Combes chicane. Mackenberg getting overtaken there, Botti up into 6th place, Mackenberg down to 7th, and now we've got Parvan coming in behind to try and add to that battle.
And as they fan out single file more as they come into this twisty middle sector, it does look like Kunze has got a great advantage over Nikola Latkovsky as they all come through Lapanik as well. Progress off at the start. Grota is his next target after what has been a good few corners to start the race. Bit of a gap in the mid-pack as well, but we'll see how people can try and get their way through as we see a spin. That's Lapanik through pool.
Oh, that was straight back onto the racing line as well. That was straight back onto the racing line. That Mercedes, you can see it getting back going again in the background. I don't know if that was assisted or not, but like, you're absolutely right. You picked it straight out. Lapinick was the one that has spun around and has dropped back to 17th position, just jumping between that break between Jonas Parren and Kevin Sanchez. He's actually dropped on the back of Luke D'Amico as well. At the front of the field, though, it's 0.4 of a second that Julian Kunze leads over Cody Nikolakowski. 1.1 seconds back to Sven Mackenberg, then half a second back to Christian Grota. Botti, then Mackenberg, Marvin that one. Daniel Parvin, who was looking for a couple of moves to the midpoint of that lap. Then we get Rue Felipe, Radam Takar, and then Guillaume Vigneron as we look at our race leader coming through.
Certainly is. Latkovsky is starting to really put the pressure on Kunze now, coming to the end of this first lap. They've got a little bit of a gap actually to Mackenberg, turning to a two-way fight already after just this first lap. Is that going to be the thing that we're going to see over the course of this 2.4 hours? We've got another pair of Bentleys there coming in third and fourth place, as I think Latkovsky is going to have a bit of a run though, coming in towards La Source now. Felipe up the inside. It is going to be Parvin goes down a position there. Felipe up into 7th place. So Parvin was looking on the back of Mackenberg, but he's now lost a place himself.
And we know that Felipe can be quite a consistent driver, so the difference he can make at the start of the race, he may be able to find towards the end. But Marvin Mackenberg there in 6th, I mean, he's going to come under pressure soon, you'd expect, from the Portuguese driver in 7th, but never know. I mean, Mackenberg, not necessarily with the best start, when we saw him getting overtaken by Botti into Le Com on the opening, but there is, as we said, a long, long, long way to go. As Kunze, I mean, he is under pressure from Nikola Latkovsky. He looks like he's comfortable enough in lead.
Certainly so. There's a few big drivers, though, down towards the back of the field. Marius Abdir being one of them. Rokas to be as well, off the rear end of the field. Just going to do a little bit of your Yuval Rosen update, rising from 35th on the grid to 18th. That is a pretty impressive opening lap and a bit for Yuval Rosen. About 10 kilometres complete in the race, and Yuval Rosen is already on the back of Ornelas. Lapinick ahead, Florian Vutric as well, Parren, then Sanchez, D'Amico, Grunig, and then Vigneron. And by that point, he'll be inside the top 10. He's going to look on the back of the Callaway to try and make a move on the run down towards Poole. And he's going to take a look down the inside, and he is going to commit. What a send from Yuval Rosen. He's flying right now.
He's got so much confidence, it seems. Starting at the back hasn't phased him at all. And coming up towards this, already just the end of this second lap, he is making some good progress. If he can work his way up like that, he'll definitely be able to get himself inside the top 10 by the end of the race. Hopefully the field spread isn't too much by that point in this race, as we see Vigneron inside the top 10 himself. In P9 as it stands, starting to lose a bit of pace to Parvin and that top pack. But look at the train of cars coming in behind. It's just going to be pretty difficult to hold on to these positions, and that's why, even though it's 2.4 hours, there's almost a sprint race at the beginning here as you try and keep your place at the front.
Yeah, and I think with Rosen in that Porsche, I think the only Porsche in front of him is Nikola Latkovsky, who is right on the back of Kunze, so that'll give him a little bit of an advantage, well, not necessarily an advantage, but a bit of an incentive to try and get up the road. We see more side-by-side action in the background towards Le Com. I think Sanchez, yes it is, trying to go around the outside of, I think that's Luca D'Amico it is, but D'Amico to the inside, onto that sausage curb on the outside. Sparks are flying as the car bottoms out over that curb, but they're going to have to go side-by-side up the hill.
Surely no. Surely someone's going to lift out from this side-by-side through Rouge and Radion, and it will be Luke D'Amico, the one to lift out in all of that. Just a little bit of a brushy contact, like I say, up onto that sausage curb on the exit of T1. That's a little scary, I'm not going to lie. But it is Sanchez 12th position, D'Amico 13th at the moment, and a decent gap back towards Parren, which is kind of what it has been for a little while. There has been a bit of a larger gap there, 13th to 14th. A couple of moves happening behind all of that. I think there was Marcel Herzog that was trying to make some move. Mikael Lapinick. Concerns, though, for Lapinick really have to be laid towards the tyres, Cam. Yeah, obviously he's had a spin earlier on this race going through Pion, right on the first lap, and he's now assisted someone else into a spin. Bye-bye Florian Vutric. Yuval Rosen's now going to try and come through around the outside of Rivage inside of X curve. It's going to be a bit of a squeeze there from Lapinick, and it's Yuval Rosen going for a spin. This is turning into chaos.
Oh, they spun right into the centre of traffic as well. Cars going left, cars going right, four wide for a moment there as Rosen comes back on the exit as well. That is a very dangerous situation. Somehow there hasn't been further contact. But Lapinick again, they're not having the best couple of corners. Contact with a couple of cars, and first three was Vutric, and then of course Rosen, and that is not the way that we want to see the racing here. Unfortunately, the driver's just pushing it to the limit. Almost more contact there with Coughlin as well. This is getting a bit of chaos in Sector 2.
It is, and there's cars absolutely everywhere at the bottom end of the top 20 and into the 20s. I mean, I was going to mention the fact that Lapinic had that spin at Buon, but yet had found his way further up the grid than maybe he could have been after that spin on the opening lap. But then then that happened, so he's back down in 23rd. So you know, the bottom end of the top 10. I mean, looking at Luca D'Amico, he's gained a few positions. He's gained a few positions and time on the cars behind through that. There's a little bit of breathing room now for those guys. And there's so many into the bus stop chicane, that's cooling. They go side by side all the way through, and it's just looking left, right and centre to see who was making the moves where.
Yeah, it's Luca Vustric as well having a couple of problems. There is Jose Luis Gamero with Bruno Ornelas. This is absolute chaos towards the back end and just outside of the top 20. Move being made to the inside. I think that will be Marcel Herzog as well, trying to work his way up the order. You've got Lukic, you've got Ornelas, you've got Tatara, also all battling out. You've got that Callaway of Bruno Ornelas now losing out to Ivan Lukic. And that's looking at the battles outside of the top 20. You've got this one here as well, a little bit of a squeeze there from Marcus Krunig trying to get and fend off Radim Tukar for the final position inside the top 10. Kevin Sanchez also involved in this. Luca D'Amico still involved in the fight just off the rear end in that red and white Callaway. You've also got the Belgian colours on that Audi R8 of Jonas Parren. Sat again still a little way off the back, but to be fair in this kind of race I'm not too bothered about being a little too way off the rear end. You know, some drivers have bitten quite the bullet, the likes of Yuval Rosen. I mean, I will say it was a little bit of an ambitious look down the inside going into the X-Curve, and there is another little ambitious look, this one on Van Roon, who's had his own issues early on in the race.
Yeah, if you want to make up places, you do have to take some risks, but that was certainly an awkward half look down the inside, and of course got the front end caught on that occasion. But it was working out initially. He was making up places, but he's got to do it all over again down in that 30th place for Rosen. Now another driver who obviously dropped down in the midst of all that is Lapinic in 22nd place as it's down. But look at all the cars around, and that's why I love the mid-packs in these types of races, because of course the top 5-10 generally start to spread out a bit, but the mid-pack, where most of the drivers are, is always absolute chaos, battles everywhere, and you can basically just bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be some overtakes every single lap. Here's Coughlin basically leading this train in that 17th place as he's got Kovalevsky coming up behind, trying to get the run up towards Blanchimont. Is there going to be anything that he can do down in towards the bus stop?
Find out. I mean, there's got to get a bit of a slingshot through Blanchimont, and he doesn't look like he's gaining a little bit. I mean, he's in the slipstream. Is that going to be enough into the bus? Not too sure it is. No, it's not on this occasion. They might be 3 wide behind into the bus stop. I think, yes, they are. That's heated to the inside, well, to the middle, quite frankly, and then to the inside of the final corner. Braun and Lapinic fighting his way through, still back in 23rd. He's got a ways to go, as you can see. Absolute car chaos as they come towards turn 1, and there are cars absolutely everywhere. Zabdir fighting away with Rosen and Lapinic fighting away with Braun again. Yeah,
that is Lapinic getting down the inside of Braun, going through the first corner at the source and completing the move. Also have Jose Luis Gamero involved in the fight. There was a send in the background, I think, coming out of the final chicane as Lazarenko and Norms are battling out 32nd position. There are battles up and down the field. No retirements from this race as of yet. Roki's to be around 8 seconds off the rear of the field. You've got that battle up in the distance, or rather in the foreground now as we come through. Ferdinand Coughlin versus Jacek Kovalevsky as they come through for 17th position. The BMW M4 still unable to work through Ewan O'Leary's favourite liveried car of all time, the Manthey Porsche. He loves it. And Cam, we're not going into it, all right? We did that at the Nürburgring. We're not doing it here. It is a fast car, good livery. Big green monster.
Yeah, Ewan's had a picture of this car as his avatar on Discord for about 5 years now. Absolutely loves it. To be fair, it is a cool colour. Absolutely stands out in the sea of the car liveries that we get nowadays, and that is, of course, Coughlin driving that machine today. 25 seconds off the lead already. Such is the way that the field spread works, and they are actually starting to open up that train just a little bit. It is certainly starting to spread out, but Kovalevsky is getting so close through this middle sector, almost trying to go around the outside there on the exit of Pifaf, and not quite working out, almost getting too close at the wrong part of the track as Vertrick actually gets quite close on the back side of this battle. But Coughlin holding on nicely in that Porsche at the moment.
I remember Cam, you mentioned at the start of the race that Kunzer and Nikola Latkovsky had become a little bit of a two-horse race, and you can see the gap there. I mean, it's grown out to over 5 seconds between Nikola Latkovsky and Sven Mackenberger, 6 seconds now between those two. So it is becoming a bit of a two-horse race at the front. That's not to say that the guys behind can try and find their way through. There is that train, isn't there, that we can see behind Sven Mackenberg, I apologise, as we see loads of other drivers trying to find their way through towards the podium, and Mackenberg is currently holding the key to that.
Yeah, certainly so. The gaps at the front of the field, it's 1.2 seconds through the front to 5.9 then back to Sven Mackenberg. So it's a pretty large gap, and then 1.2 to Alessandro Botti. Christian Grota on the rear end of Alessandro Botti. I'm not sure if he's wanting to go for a move. He's right on the rear end. I keep seeing that gap getting really, really close, and then Christian Grota not trying anything. I think Grota is more than happy at the moment to sit behind that Mercedes and just kind of let them do the work. Let them, push a little bit at the front. Obviously, they will be making a pit stop in this race. I can tell you for sure a GT3 cannot do 2 hours and 24 minutes around the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps on just a single tank of fuel. We do have, I believe, our first retirement from this race as Radim Takar is going to retire. We do also have our first pit stop because Rokas de B, I think, has called it quits on his tyres and has headed his way into pit lane. Just to clarify, by the way, we're not using the endurance pit lane for this, as there's some sense in the background. That one will be Marius Sabdir versus Bruno Ornelas for 25th position. We'll be using the Grand Prix pits, the one we're used to, as that will be Luis Gamero making a move on Ivan Lukic.
Oh, and here comes Rosen down the inside there. And Ornelius, and actually Ornelius might be losing another place. There's Tatara trying to come through as well. And that is just showing you how easily you can drop down places. Braun's also lost a place to Van Ruin as the driver's starting, or continue I should say, to get these overtakes done and try and get themselves up the order. Zabdir and Rosen, they both dropped to the back after the first couple of laps of carnage, and they're starting to work their way up through the field for 24th, 25th place. So Rosen, he's been up, he's been down, and now he's been up again. Let's see how far forward he can get during the course of this race. And there's definitely going to be at least one pit stop for some drivers who want to do a bit of fuel saving, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see an aggressive two-stop from some drivers today. Of course, you'll be pitting a little bit earlier, you'll be short fueling, saving some time there, and of course having some fresher tyres.
I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised to say that, or to see if Rosen goes for a two-stop at the pace that he is going. We see Braun trying to make positions. There is someone coming into the pit lane. I think that's Nilas, I think, the Portuguese driver. Yes, it is. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Rosen go for a two-stop strategy. He is definitely got very little room for error, as we see Van Rooyen having to defend here from Herzog into La Source. But yeah, he's left very little on the table, I think, in terms of holding back some fuel. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he pits earlier than some others for a two-stop strategy. But yeah, we'll have to see if that works out before Evan does take the strategy.
Here's a car that might want to head into pit lane fairly soon. It is looking very much worse for wear in the opening 20 minutes of this race. The car of Marius Zabdir, kind of looking like how I expect mine, Cam and Ewan's car to look in about a week's time when we try and take on the 24 hours of Spa. It's not going to be pretty, as Marius Zabdir works his way down the inside of Lukic and then around the outside of Lukic. And I mean that in the most literal way possible. Just a little bit too much of a squeeze, a little bit of contact between the pair of them. Hard to tell from that angle. And Marius Zabdir's day goes from bad to worse as he goes from a spin down to 32nd, as Lukic now has to fend off the charge of Braun, who's just got through the inside, going through Ravage, outside through X-Curve, and now up into 25th.
That was one of the weirdest crashes I've ever seen. I don't know if it was the camera angle, but that looked proper weird, with one going right, one going to the left. But unfortunately, Zabdir has dropped down once again, as Lukic is now trying to defend, or not really actually, on the exit of Pouon. And I think it's going to be Van Ruyen just getting up a place there. So he's definitely got some damage on that car. It's just in behind. Is that Herzog and Bates going side by side through the chicane. Bit of contact maybe just on the exit there, as it's going to be Herzog in that BMW, just missing out on that position. Actually a little bit further out once again is that Braun and Van Ruyen are trying to go side by side. Overtakes everywhere here at Spa.
They really are, and they are coming towards this back third of the grid. I mean, we're seeing quite a lot of overtakes being made, not necessarily at the front in that train for 3rd place, but the back end of the top 20 and the top 30 as well. Lapanik is, along with Rose, those yo-yo drivers we've had so far, been up, been down, been back up again, a bit like the 1,000 Soldiers of BWT, but we'll have to see if he can get back to the end of the Racing One piece. He's currently in 17th, but Kovalevsky in front of him is the next challenge. We see it's Marvin Mackenberg on the back of Greta, but he's in this train, and these guys don't look as keen to make the moves. The guys in towards 20th place are.
I'm not going to lie, when you said yo-yo drivers there, I thought that was a new esports team that I'd not heard of as of yet. It's a good name for a team. If you are a driver that goes up and down and back up orders, then yo-yo racing, off you go. Here is Jacek Kovalevsky trying to get past Dubois. At the moment, 15th position, the final spot inside that top 15, as he'll try and get past Carl Dubois. A little bit of a look down the inside for his BMW M4. That is not going to work on that occasion. He might have to struggle with the challenges of Mikhail Lapanik as well. He's been charging right up to the back. Of course, Kovalevsky's managed to work his way past Ferdinand Coughlin and up the order, but that bright yellowy green Manthey Porsche is probably going to get her back ahead fairly soon if you're going to make mistakes of that. Straight around the outside and all the way around the outside going through Rivage, cost him a position to Mikhail Lapanik after a mistake on the brakes. Was he just unsighted there? I've not seen that too many times. As Lapanik straight down the inside of Dubois. That might be a little bit too deep for himself. Manages to hold it onto the race circuit.
Nice couple of positions there by Lapanik. Yeah, I think Kovalevsky just completely misjudged the braking zone in that one and basically had to avoid the car. And that just shows you actually how just one little missed braking zone you can lose a place. That just shows you how on the limit these drivers really are. And it's if you lose half a second or something like that, you are going to be losing a place with how close the battles are around here. There's Dubois in that pink Mercedes machine. Now he's got Kovalevsky on the back of him, and it looks like he's had a bit of a slow exit there. As we come out onto this back straight up towards Blanchimont, is there going to be any way through for the BMW? Overtaking into Blanchimont is the risky option. Sometimes you have to wait. Most of the time, actually, you have to wait. Oh, is he going to do so? No, he's going to dive it down the inside, back out of it at the last minute. That is going to leave Coughlin a run up towards the final chicane. Is there going to be a way for that Porsche now round the outside? He's going to try it. He's going to try brake late, but not quite close enough into that final chicane.
It's the Vutric brothers just behind them as well in 19th and 20th who were sniffing around in their Audi and their BMW respectively. Is that going to be, oh my word, moves to the inside. I think that's Coughlin and Kovalevsky trying to make the move it is, but they are meeting each other nearly into someone into the source as they try and make the move stick. There are these trains forming, and I think we will see over the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so, that these trains start to quiet down a bit. As we said, the moves at the start of the race are critically important, and I think it will start to move into that period where we have passed that point of no return, and we are trying to consolidate the positions, get a bit of a consistent run going, but I don't think Kovalevsky is listening to me, because he's going to be squeezed to the inside of Lecombe by Dubois. As he goes to the inside, I think he's going to be able to get the move done, and he is. That's a good move into the inside of Lecombe.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on my little race control bit. I'm seeing a lot of slowdown penalties for track limit abuse, which only tells me one thing. It's one thing that we do know about Spa is the potential of drive-through penalties. It is really high around here, courtesy of track excursions coming through here at Excurve, going through Radion, the exit of Blanchimont, you can pick one up, to be fair. The exit of Piff Paff, they've just gone through there. The exit of Stanverlow, which they're just about to go through now, where you've got the curveball for the bit on the outside, you can pick one up there. There's a lot of places to receive some form of slowdown or whatever, and I did see Kovalevsky received a slowdown penalty going through Radion, and I did wonder, he's not exactly slowing down, is he? Well, he's just received a drive-through penalty for ignoring slowdown warnings.
That is a silly, that's a silly penalty to get, because obviously the slowdown is your opportunity to get out of it. But unfortunately, a drive-through penalty, even with the Grand Prix pits around here, is a big enough margin that you do not want to take. Look how close all the cars are behind. He's going to be going back past all of them, as there's a yellow in Sector 3. Bates has had an issue down in 32nd place. He's dropped down the order a little bit as well, so let's see if Kovalevsky comes in to take his drive-through penalty, coming in towards the final chicane. They're all getting so close behind him, and yes, no, he's not. He's going to continue on and cause a little bit more. No, he's spun in front of all of them. So that just adds another incident to his list as such, and that is not going to help his day anymore.
Oh, I don't think he's going to be overly pleased with how the last 3 minutes have gone for him in his BMW. I mean, yeah, that's not necessarily ideal. I was going to mention Lapanik has put a bit of a gap on Kovalevsky and consolidated 15th very well, but that doesn't seem to be much of an issue. We see Kunze now at the front of the field. Latkovsky is a few seconds back. But I did notice, actually, that Kunze is very, very consistently in the 2-minute 18s. I mean, from lap 2 all the way to the most recent lap, lap 9, he stayed in those 2-minute 18s, which is something that no one's been able to match. I mean, even Cody Nikola Latkovsky has spent 4 laps now in the 2-minute 19, so he really is pushing on. But we see Vutric on the inside of Coughlin, but they're fighting out side by side through Led Calm. I mean, these guys are still fighting out 17th, 18th, 19th. These group of cars still going at it.
Yeah, and the whole don't hit your teammate thing might be taken to the next level as Florian Vutric is caught by Luka Vutric as well. Yuval Rosen closing back into this. I think Rosen is speeding his way up through the order because he wants to have a very big word with one Mr. Mikhail Lapanik, who is presently up the order in 15th. Yellow flag comes out for Grunig. So Grunig is having problems. I believe he has just lost control in a solo spin. So Grunig will try and get himself back going again and does indeed do so. 13th position he will remain. There's a big send from Yuval Rosen, and the Israeli works his way through one for Vutric and the second one as well in the same complex of corners. That was pretty impressive. I get the feeling that Florian Vutric is struggling here.
Yeah, definitely. He wasn't at full pace through that sequence of track. I mean, look, just a couple of corners. Rosen's got maybe, 5-10 car lengths already. Definitely struggling there a little bit. I wonder if this is something to do with tyres, maybe, although we haven't had so long in the race already, but you can definitely abuse the tyres if you push them just a little bit harder, have a couple of half spins. We have seen him have a couple of issues so far this race, but Rosen well up inside the top 20 now. He's going to be enjoying that one. Hopefully he doesn't drop down once again, as he won't want to be overtaking all these guys for a third time.
No, definitely not. And I mean, there are these guys that they're just trying to find their way through, and they are just trying to get the positions without then having an incident, as we've mentioned. But yes, this train here on the back of the third, Sven Malcolm, is looking very consistent, very quiet. I mean, none of these guys are really pushing the boundaries, making any audacious moves. We might be seeing further down. You can see the order changing rapidly. There we go, that's why then. Thank you. Towards the back end of the field. But yeah, these guys at the front, they have been pretty quiet for this race. And I wonder if it'll be like Bathurst a couple of months ago, where we saw the guys stay in train for a while, but then when it came to the closing stages, became quite attacking, quite aggressive, and we'll have to see if that materialises today.
Yeah, one of the big things as well is that I believe there is some form of expectation. Like, it's generally cars like the Bentley can do these kind of races maybe on one stop. Getting to an hour and 12 minutes is sort of possible. Around here, it's a bit more of a question mark as Yuval Rosen works his way past Luka Vutric again. Didn't we already see this?
Yeah.
So he's got past Luka Vutric and then Florian Vutric. He can't do it in the same complex of corners though, so that's fine. Only one this time. I did see a little bit of a comment from Radim Tukar saying, how was Lapanik P15 with that spin? My bigger question is, how is Yuval Rosen 18th after starting from the back, having a spin to the back of the field, and now he's back up in 18th? What kind of lap is that?
That's just having some extra speed. Clearly, he's got some good pace in the car. So had he qualified normally, he'd probably be well up inside the top 10. But of course, he's down with some drivers that he's a little bit quicker than. So it makes him almost like a little bit better. But he's got some pace in that Porsche, the all-black Porsche, all-carbon Porsche, coming up now towards Blanchimont, trying to get past Vutric once again. Did this just one lap ago, obviously dropped back behind, is now having to redo that move. He's getting a bit of a run here up towards the final chicane. Of course, it's so hard to carry that momentum through Blanchimont because it's not easy flat out by any means, and in towards the braking zone. He's looking a little bit towards the inside, but can't find a move this time around. But actually missing the apex there, and that's going to give Rosen quite a nice run to start the next lap.
when Rosen's going to make these overtakes rather than if, because he does look so fast at this point in the race. I mean, we've only been going for, what, 26 and a half minutes, and like you said, Lewis, I mean, he was at the back, then he was in the mid-pack, then he was at the back again, and now he's back in 18th. So he is going up and down like the clappers. We'll have to see if he can stay there. I mean, there aren't as many bunches of cars we saw beforehand for him to make a mistake in, to get caught up in an instant with. We'll have to see if he can make his way up, but I think the Q-Trix will be the next target.
Yeah, as much as there aren't as many groupings for him to do that, there aren't as many groupings for him to take full advantage of it as well. Down the inside of Florian Vistrick, and so he does work his way back up into 17th position. I think, as you were pointing out earlier, Darrow, as well, that the idea that he is almost certainly on a two-stop strategy, it's on the cards. You know, I think definite two-stop strategy, an aggressive two-stop strategy from Yuval Rosen. I still think quite a lot of the grid will be on two-stop strategies because Cam, it is a circuit that you can fuel save. Yeah, there is obviously that downhill run once you come out of Malmedy on the run down through Rivage, through 300,000 coordinates that this circuit has. There's quite a lot of space to save fuel, but there's also a lot of time where you are just on the throttle, but there's nothing you can really do about it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Firstly, let's see Lapinit get past up into 13th place. Polgar has to drop down. Wonder if there's some sort of slowdown sign, because he was not going full pace through there. But yeah, certainly this track is a lot. It's more of a momentum-based track. It's not a very stop-start track. The stop-start ones, where it's quite hard to save fuel because you're always braking and it hard accelerate, brake, hard accelerate. It's not the most efficient style of track. Whereas this one, even the middle sector, they're all long, flowing corners where you can easily just back off the throttle a little bit, roll through the corners a bit more, and therefore save fuel. And of course, you've got the slipstream down these long straights. If you look, for instance, like these 4 cars on the screen, Greta leads in the way. All the cars behind can just lift off a little bit at certain points of the straights and use that slipstream to carry the speed, and that's of course an efficient way of saving fuel too.
It is, and I think it just depends who is saving that fuel. I mean, the guys in this top train might be thinking, as Marlon Mackenberg isn't thinking this, because he might be looking the inside of Lecom, and he is. He's going to try and make the move around the outside of the second part of the chicane. Can he find the line? There's a little bit of contact between him and Christian Grote, and just behind them, Parvan and Felipe. I think they're going to be side by side. Oh no, and Marvin Mackenberg, he's spun out on the exit. I mean, there's a big gap behind, but that's gutted for him.
That car is it's in a pretty bad state. Let's just go with that. He's going to lose out to D'Amico. He's going to lose out to a lot of people because that car has seen better days. It's quite a hard hit. If he wants to feel better about himself, Fernando Alonso's been in that wall, so fair enough. That's a big send-over from Rui Felipe down the inside of Christian Grote. You surely can't bully a big Bentley Continental GT Evo off the circuit, but he's trying it with a little Audi R8 and just about manages to make it work. The Portuguese driver then up to 6th position as he tries to charge his way back down onto Daniel Parvan. I do wonder if potentially Christian Grote has used a bit of his tyres. I have seen he's been off the circuit a couple of times. He did get a slowdown penalty a few laps ago for track limit abuses. It wasn't a major one because clearly he's not dropped down that far, but it's kind of the way the slowdown penalties work. As he's just literally received another one and I'm talking about it. If you get one, your slowdown penalty is not too bad. When you keep getting them again and again and again and again and again, not only do you get a drive-through penalty for track limit abuses, the penalty will also get harsher for how much you have to slow down in doing so. So you've got to be careful, as there is the damaged and stricken Marvin Mackenberg trying to work his way back around the circuit. That does not look fun.
And that's a shame for him, because I wouldn't be surprised if he was on a one-stop strategy. I'm pretty sure I remember him and his brother doing that last year, but now he's going to have to repair the damage, and of course you're not going to get to the end in an hour and 53 minutes. So definitely on the 2-stop now, which is a bit of a shame for him because that was working nicely. And also working nicely is Rosen and his overtakes today. He's made up a couple more places from the last time that we saw him. He's now trying to get on the back of the boy to get himself inside the top 15, as also going to pass Mackenberg inside the pits. And the other Mackenberg there, Sven Mackenberg, he gets overtaken. Botti puts himself up onto the podium.
He is up onto the podium. I mean, I was obviously completely wrong when I was mentioning the fact that that train has settled down, because we've seen Mackenberg have a spin and they're fighting with Parvan and Felipe, and now Botti's past Sven Mackenberg. for P3 at the top there. Dubois, though, having to defend from Rose, and the man in the black Porsche is really on a mission. He looks like he might even try it towards Lecom. Looks a little bit further back, but that slipstream effect will help him all the way down the Camel Straight. I'll have to see if he can find an inside, maybe an outside line through Lecom. He's going to have to go with the outside line, and he's going to just charge around the outside. And there's not even a chance. Is there a chance? There is a chance for Dubois to come back, but can Rosen stay at it? Not quite. I think go again some other time.
Yeah, but he's got some big sense in him. He might have got a good up and under out of Malmedy. He looks down the inside of the Rivage. The corner is covered off a little bit by Dubois. There is not much room, but just about enough for a Porsche 911 GT3. And Yuval Rosen will work his way through into 14th position. Now the Manthey Porsche of Ferdinand Coughlin is also involved in this fight, and he'll try and get his way past Carl Dubois. We've seen those two fight a couple of times throughout the day thus far. But I've got to say, that was some impressive driving from Yuval Rosen. The straight line speed of at least his Porsche seems absolutely fine this afternoon, as he's been able to scythe his way through the order. Unfortunately for him, there's quite a large margin up, about I think it's around 6 seconds to Polgar. He's only 10 seconds, though, behind the man he wants to have a word with, being Lapanik. So plenty of time for him to get up there. Now 51 minutes left to go in this race, 2.4 hours of Spa. About half an hour and a bit complete in this race, and Kunze continues to lead. The gap's out to 4.3 seconds, though, as the laps continue to go on. Botti up to third position, then Sven Mackenberg, Parvin, Rui Felipe, Christian Grota, Guillaume Vigneron, then D'Amico, and then Parron inside the top 10. Basically, some of those drivers, Vigneron, D'Amico, Parron, they're just driving around by themselves at the moment. There is no one around them. Like it's like 2 or 3 seconds ahead, 2 or 3 seconds behind. You're basically just doing a lap of Spa by yourself. You can see the top two here on your map, just heading through Malmedy and then down the hill towards Rivage. They've not got lap traffic for a while. The first one they'll come across will be Brokers to B. We don't really expect to see too much in terms of lap traffic around here, though, Cam.
Yeah, it's obviously a long track, and therefore it takes a while for the leaders to lap some drivers, but you never know with the way that some accidents happen and people taking long pit stops, going out of the way, as it's absolute chaos once again in the mid-pack. But Coughlin there in the green Manthey Porsche. Is he going to be overtaken here by Vertrick coming up the Kemmel Straight? It actually might work out for Vertrick there, getting the slipstream of the car ahead of Dubois, and he's going to be making that move rather nice, although the Porsche is actually going to be coming back, having to think about it into the braking zone. No, he brakes early actually. The BMW comes all the way round the outside. The other Vertrick goes side by side through Lecom and in towards Malmedy. They give each other space just about on the exit. Now down the hill in towards the hairpin is going to be Vertrick, just holding on to that position in the end as Coughlin goes down 2 places.
I think Coughlin doesn't look particularly comfortable at the moment, and I think Louis Gamero and Van Roo might smell that and try and find a way past themselves in the next lap or so, and it goes wide as well. No-name corner. Well, I think there is definitely a little bit of cause for concern if you are Coughlin in that Porsche, because he is not looking terribly comfortable. We now see Grota on the back of Philippe. He's going to try and go around the outside of Blanchemont. That's going to be ambitious if he sticks it there. No, backs out somewhat. Might go for a slingshot and a run into the bus stop chicane. His Bentley, but might not see a bit of a dive. No, he sticks in behind for now. But yeah, these little battles are starting to develop near the front, as Coughlin is being overtaken by Luis Gamero, I should say, and yeah, spread around the outside again. There's so much confidence in everyone around Coughlin, and very little confidence inside of that.
Yeah, he's got a slow down penalty, but then also just completely lost confidence in all of it. And now Van Roo. Oh my goodness, bye-bye. That Manthey Porsche is out of here. Oh my goodness me. That was a proper send into the barrier. Just the slight overlap, and bye-bye. That is Coughlin straight into the barrier on the right-hand side. Van Roo moves up into 19th position under what can only be classed as dubious circumstances. Oh my goodness.
I hope he took his hands, or he had enough time to take his hands off the wheel, because with heavy force feedback wheels you can easily damage fingers, and that was instantaneous. As soon as a bit of pressure went on that rear right side of his car, he got absolutely sent, and that was so fast as well. I mean, you're coming up towards top speed towards Blanchemont there, so that was two 60 plus Ks and going into the barrier, that was certainly a huge hit. Amazing actually that the car is still going after that one, so there's at least a bit of strength there, so he might be able to at least try and finish the race, but he's going to have a lot of damage repairs there.
Yeah, that's not going to be ideal, and that I think caught all of us off guard. I think that came as a bit of a shock. We just saw the car just across the front of Van Roon there. And then, of course, into the barrier. But, of course, these guys at the front won't care at all. They are just continuing on with their evening as if nothing has happened at all. But Matkovsky, is that Matkovsky there, or is that a lapped car? No, I think that's a lapped car.
It's lapped car.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's surprising because last time I checked that gap was 10 seconds. Yeah, that was confusing, but no. Latkovsky is currently very solidly in second place, quite a ways off of Kunze, 5 seconds, 11 seconds in front of Botti. Continue to see the Vutric brothers. They're probably sick of seeing each other at this point. They've been nearly a nose to tail for most of this race so far, but we'll have to see if they continue over the next 106 minutes.
Relatable. I hate seeing my family as well. That's why I never invited my brother into the world of sim racing, and I do not regret it at all. Best decision I ever made. No, obviously it's good to see it's great to see both the Mackenbergs out there, although this time they are on either side of the field, one down in 33rd and then one right at the front, or towards the front in 4th position. There is Marvin Mackenberg in what I can only describe as a slightly repaired full-on motorsport bodge job. Is Marvin Mackenberg to get back out onto the race circuit. The front left light is just not there. Obviously it doesn't need to be, not racing at night time, but there are certain problems. You just saw Marcus Grunig as well come through the foreground shot. His car's not looking in particularly good state. There's a lot of damaged cars out there, Cam. It's starting to remind me a little bit of the 2014 Bathurst 1000, and seeing cars come across the line with just ungodly amounts of tape all over them, just because the brutality and also the colours of that race.
Yeah, I wonder if RaceRoom simulates duct tape as well. That would certainly be a good addition. If not, because of course you can continue without a fully repaired car. There will be some issues with it though. It's not going to have the best aero on that machine as we come to this battle. We've been seeing for quite a few laps now. To the outside goes Vertrick, and he's going to have it easy. No, he's not actually under the braking zone. Du Bois comes back, tries to hold it in Lecom, but has to back out to that one. Vertrick goes up into 15th place, and that was slightly harder than he would have wanted. Now coming down in towards the Rivage, the BMW in behind. Is Du Bois going to be losing another place as they go in towards the braking zone, and Mercedes holds on to that position for now. But look at these drivers lining up behind. If you start getting overtaken, the drivers behind see that you're vulnerable and they take action as well.
I think Luca will not be too pleased to see his brother escape up the road. He wants to stay right with him and get ahead of Dubois P16. But yeah, the two Belgians in this race, Perrin and Dubois, have had their differing races. Dubois we've seen a lot of, and I don't think we've seen Perrin once. So in the 2 home races, I think we've seen quite a bit of a difference, as we see now Greta on the back of Felipe, and Vigneron not too far back as well. I would also say that Florian Vutric will chase after Rosen, but after seeing Rosen's pace, I don't know how possible that's going to be.
I'm not sure that car directly behind was Guillaume Vigneron, by the way, because I believe it was actually Ben Bates in the Callaway, the one coming through. Either way, there goes Van Roon past Louis Gamero, and so he's up into 18th position, working his way back up the order after a spin in the very first corner of this race. Dubois, the next one up, as Dubois is going to try and make his way past Vutric and all that lot with Van Roon in there as well. It's all very crazy indeed. That is going to be the sender back in there from Louis Gamero on Van Roon, and not able to make that one stick. That would have been quite the send at the bus stop chicane. We are not short of battling here in the Spa 2.4 out. We're just shy of it at the front of the field because Julian Kunz's checked out.
Yeah, he's leading by 5.5 seconds, and then behind Latkovsky in second place, there's another, 11 seconds or something to the next driver. So yeah, really spread out at the front here. But Kunze, he had that was it 2/10 gap in qualifying, and that has translated to the race pace as well. He's just been slowly but surely, lap by lap, pulling out that gap and really just enjoying his life. Believes, yeah, he's got fastest lap as well, so really enjoying his time, but he needs to get the strategy right as well to not let Latkovsky come back, as we see Botti in that third place. That car behind is, I believe, Zabdir, who is a lap down, so do not think about that one. It's the car a bit further back. That is Sven Mackenberg, the Bentley at the back of shot.
Yeah, I mean, the gaps are forming, aren't they? And oh, as we see, that's Grönig going around. That's Grönig. Dearie me, that's he's got is that Vutric right behind him, or is that a lapped car? I think that is Vutric. It is, and he is straight ahead of his countryman. And there's yet another car between Florian and Luca again, but this time 14 and P16 as they slowly make their way through the field. I'm not too sure what happened there. Was he close to Rosen ahead? Maybe.
As far as I'm seeing, it might have been a loss of control, but it might have been some form of contact. I don't know. He did lose a little bit earlier on. That's where he got some of the damage from. Not too sure. Another thing to update you on: Carl Dubois out of the race. Not sure what happened. Could be fairly dubious circumstances. Is that too much of a stretch? Yeah, it's a little bit. That's fine. Got to try the odd punt every now and then. As Yuval Rosen on the back of Polgar, trying to work his way up to 12th position. Probably going to be a big send down the inside here as the yellow flag comes out once more. It's Rokas de B, the one that's causing that one right at the rear of the field. There's the look down the inside, and the Israeli driver works his way up into 12th position with a proper send on his fellow Porsche. So working his way back up the field. The next one for him is Lapanik. That is not the car that's coming through the foreground of shot. That is Marvin Mackenberg. Of course, what we're looking for here is for Yuval Rosen to close up to the back of a yellow and black Mercedes AMG. Mikhail Lapanik there going through Eau Rouge and over the top at Radio. We've had that camera angle in real life now.
We certainly have got a video of it on my phone from that wonderful new grandstand, translated well into the simulation, of course. But yeah, for Rosen, who we're actually going to just about see at the back of shot, maybe not. So it's about the length of the full Kemmel Straight Rosen needs to come down. And I just cannot believe what we're seeing. Rosen, you see just next to his name in the tower, plus 23 places. But bear in mind, he dropped back about almost 20 places, about 15, 20 places when he had that spin earlier as well. So the amount of overtaking that he's been doing is absolutely crazy. So yeah, it's an amazing performance. I would love to see what Rosen could do from the front of the field, but he's at least giving us action from where he is. Here comes Vertrick though. He's got Van Ruin in front of him coming through this middle sector. This is Luca Vertrick, that is, and trying to find a way past in 17th place.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, there's a couple of other guys who have very nice races. I mean, he's been up a few places near the front of the field, which of course is a little bit more difficult to find those positions as you get further up the order. But yeah, lots of action to savour, as Kovalevsky actually is going a little bit wide. That is Lukic right behind him. This is the 23rd place as they come to the inside pool. I thought Lukic might send it there, and that would have ended incredibly badly for both of them. But Zarenko wouldn't mind a little bit of contact between these two, I'm sure, because he might be able to swan his way up into 23rd if there was.
Yeah, you can see Lazarenko in the background, probably around about 4 seconds off the rear end of this battle between Lukic and Kovalevsky. Kovalevsky, of course, has been into the pit lane. That is not for a pit stop. That is for a drive-through penalty, for ignoring slowdown penalty. The only driver that we've had thus far into the pit lane for a drive-through penalty. Third retirement to add to the list. It just says on my graphic, Rokas to be has sustained critical damage. That is him done for the day. So a third retirement in the opening portion of this race. Nearly an hour done. We are approaching that sort of the first expected pit stop. If you're on a two-stop strategy, realistically speaking, Cam, you could, if you were running it fairly aggressive, or even if you just wanted to split it into fairly even parts, to be perfectly honest, you're kind of talking about pitting in the next sort of 10 to 15 minutes if you're going to split it evenly.
Yeah, but sometimes it's you have to think about the maths, because when you start the race, you're probably going to start with a full tank of fuel as well, even if you're doing a two-stop, because then you just have less to take during the race. So therefore, you could probably extend that first stint a little bit longer and then get even more of an advantage with the fresher tyres potentially, or maybe you're going to do it the other way around, but we'll have to see. As you say, it's going to be in the next sort of 10 minutes or so, so that's probably the next 4 to 5 laps where we're going to see if everyone is going to be doing it. Well, probably some people doing a two-stop and then some doing the one. It's always a tricky one in these 2.4-hour races, because it's not a slam dunk. I think you can make both work. It just depends on your pace and how good you are at saving that fuel.
Definitely. I mean, we've seen it in the other 2.4 hours as well, haven't we? Where where we've had a difference in strategy with quite a few of the drivers, and I think it'll be interesting to see who goes which way this evening. I mean, we've still got the drivers who are in the battles, and we see Felipe and Goethe. It's the two of them at the moment, because there's no one within 5 seconds of these two behind, and it's an interesting one, because if you are in a bit of a train, you might try a bit of a more aggressive strategy, or alternatively try more conservative and pick up positions towards the end. But we've got a long way to go, and it'll take a while to see who goes for what. We see Lapinic, and is that Jonas Parren? Yes, it is, with the Belgian colours on his Audi, and as they come towards turn 1, I think Lapinic is a little bit scared by the fact Rosen's right up behind him, and he's going to go to the inside of turn 1. Can he make the move stick? Not quite yet.
That was sort of half-hearted. He might have it done on the run down the hill. The answer is no, actually. He's not. You're absolutely right. Yuval Rosen is closing in on this fight. The gap's now down to 8 seconds. It was 10 the last time we saw it. It's mostly courtesy of Jonas Parren having a couple of struggles for pace comparatively. Lapinic certainly has the pace to get through and might well do it here. The final moments of this 2-kilometre charge on the run from La Source to Les Comps. The look to the inside for Lapinic as he's going to send it in. Kovalevsky making his way through. I think it's actually brought into the pit lane. There is the send to the inside. Lapinic working his way through. Inside the top 10 he will go. And the Belgian dropped outside of the top 10 in their home race. Yuval Rosen will be the next one to get here, and I'm sure Rosen will be firing on all of those 6 cylinders, trying to work his way up to the rear end of this ASAP, trying to get past Lapinic. That would be very, very comfortable indeed.
Yeah, and he was about a second a lap faster, was Rosen, last time around, so that's definitely a nice bit of speed. It's about 8 seconds the gap as well, so definitely definitely that's going to be, probably by the time we've seen those pit stops that we were talking about, that he's going to be that he's going to be catching up. But as ever, catching and passing is one thing. Lapinic, it has some decent speed as well, so we'll have to see how that one continues. But for sure, it's going to be a nice battle to see Rosen try and get himself up into the top 10.
Yeah, definitely, and I think little ways to go. I mean, we've got a couple of... Yes, he's, about 7 seconds off of that top 10 now, so he is closing, and from the fact that he started right at the back of the field and that he had that spin early on, he is finding his way back very nicely indeed. Yeah, we are looking to him right now as he's in P12, but he is chasing down Jonas Parren, and I think he will try and make the move as quickly as he can. He just continues this charge through the field.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, it is impressive, but Yuval Rosen is an impressive driver. We've seen some of the thing is, sometimes Yuval Rosen will just be like, okay, I'm going to have a good race now. And bang, off he goes, into the distance. And, we've seen it before. Whereas I do remember, I don't know if you remember, I think it might have been Daytona, where he had some great pace and just couldn't help but bin it pretty constantly. We've seen some great pace out of Yuval Rosen. We know he's fast enough to do this kind of drive. That's why I was a little concerned about him starting from the back of the grid. But I mean, he's shown brilliantly the pace that he's got. So fair enough.
And I think it's going to continue by the end of this race as well. If you look ahead to Nico, he's only, about 11 seconds or so ahead, surely, in an hour and a half. he can catch down that 11 seconds. And if you look forward, Vigneron maybe a bit of a stretch at about 17 seconds or so, but there's still potential for Rosen to continue this as well in the second half of this 2.4 hours of Spa. So definitely he's one to look out for. But yeah, I think it actually might be right. It might have been at Daytona the early point of the year. It's definitely these sort of races that are these one-off special races. Of course, they're still competitive, but there's less in some ways. It's not a championship where you got to think about other races. You can just absolutely send it and go for it. And if you win, you win. And if you lose, then unfortunately you have to come back for another race.
Yeah, that's completely true. And it's something to think about, isn't it, for some of these drivers? As we can see Vigneron in second sector. But yeah, I think it is possible maybe for Rosen to work his way up. I mean, he's had some very strong pace. His last few laps. Last lap was a 19.7, which is quicker than everybody up to Cody Nikola Latkowski. So he really is putting in the pace. And I think he's at a personal best first sector as well, possibly. It's a good first sector either way. So he really is trying to make his way through the field. He's doing a very good job at it at the moment. Christian Grutter on the back of Felipe still, and this battle's still raging on for 6th place.
Yeah, I've got to say, by the way, whilst we're talking about this event, whilst we're talking about the race and stuff that we get, again, I've spoken about it a few times, how we have 8 different splits in this race. We've got a lot of drivers that are taking part. That is just in the European splits. We also do have the Oceanic and we have the American splits as well, which had a split apiece. So it's effectively 10 splits of racing that we've had here in the Spa 2.4 hour, which is amazing. Again, it's great to see how much it's growing, especially on what's been a busy weekend. I do see a few people in the chat though. Obviously some drivers that know about this. Obviously Colin Blankenberg, we know, is very aware as to the ranked races. Attila Dina's in there as well. So I think that the next time that we do one of these ranked races, we need to see Attila Dina out in action in one of these. And of course it is the time to remind everyone that these are, whilst they're ranked events and stuff, they're open for everyone to come and take part in. If you go and download RaceRoom from Steam, you're free to go and download, then you can get some of the content packs, etc., etc. You can come and take part in these races. They're easy enough to get involved in, tricky enough to win though, and that's what makes them so exciting and so enthralling to be a part of the sim racing world. As we're looking at a driver that we've not seen so far today, Peter versus Tatara. And Vlad Tatara, who we have seen a bit earlier on today, working his way back up the order, Ukrainian driver.
And this, of course, is a battle that they'll still care about themselves. When you're out on the track, you sort of lose sight of the bigger picture as such of the race, and you're only focused on the car either ahead or behind you, and this is your battle. And so far, Bjorn Peter there is holding on to that 18th place. He's made up 10 places so far. Of course, there's been a few issues for some other drivers, but I'm sure there's been some nice overtakes there in that orange Mercedes. But he's got that Ferrari of Tatara getting closer and closer behind. And of course, actually, Kovalevsky is not too far behind after his issues earlier as well. So definitely the battles continue in this mid-pack further down, and they're going to keep on going for it in the final 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think Tatara also to the top driver in that Ferrari, isn't he? So not a popular choice among the top drivers, but Tatara is leading the way for the Italian outfit, but he is on the back of Peter. I mean, we are into that stage, aren't we, where we are definitely looking at the pit stops. When are they going to come? Who's going to go for a 2-stop? How late would someone go for a 2-stop? And when do the 1-stops start? So it'll be interesting to see over the next half an hour or so where that goes with the drivers. We see Nikola Latkowski right here in his Porsche coming around towards Rivage now, but he is a ways off of Kunze, but he is incredibly safe from Alessandro Botti. He's got the largest gap behind him of any driver in the top 24.
He's incredibly safe now. Remember, we are only 5 minutes, 7 minutes where 5 minutes away from doing, I can do maths, let's not all laugh at once, right? We're 5 minutes away from being an hour into this race. So we are approaching that pit stop sequence. We are approaching a time where we're expecting to see a few drivers into the pit lane. Van Roon does come in, which is obviously telling the sign that this is definitely a moderately aggressive 2-stop race from Van Roon, as Peter loses out to Tatara, up down to 17th position. A few drivers have already been into the pit lane earlier. That's more out of necessity to repair damage rather than it being on a scheduled stop. Some of it's quite a lot too, on the side of being too early for a 2-stop race, as Bjorn Peter has just received a slowdown penalty for track limit abuses. So say goodbye to Vlad Tatara, who will probably pull away a significant portion now. You don't have to serve the slowdown penalty immediately, by the way. For anyone who doesn't know how the slowdown penalties work in this, you'll get told you've got a slowdown penalty in a certain amount of time to do it. I think it's something like a minute. Might even be longer than that. Like, you've got a lot of time to do that slowdown penalty. You do not need to do it immediately. So that's why you won't see people rushing to lift off to serve it immediately. They've got plenty of time. Some drivers forget, like Kovalevsky, and then they just get a driving penalty.
Yeah, in some ways that is a bit safer to do so, because if you get that slowdown straight away, or it's at just a really awkward point of the track, then further incidents could be had. So I do like the fact that they do have at least some opportunity to choose where they want to. Here's Lapnik though, inside that top 10 after a spin earlier, making these overtakes. The next one is D'Amico up ahead. Can he make it stick on this lap in towards the bus stop? D'Amico there, not really defending, leaving the door open on the inside of the bus stop. Lapnik has half a think about it, but not a proper send. Now coming to start this next lap, can Lapnik find a way through and find his way up into that 9th place? There's a decent gap ahead, about 9 seconds is the gap ahead, so this is the only battle he needs to focus on, but he's certainly working his way nicely up towards the back of that Callaway.
And Lapnik and Rosen, as we see on screen now, Rosen are shadowing each other, aren't they? So Lapnik on the back of Luca D'Amico, and Rosen coming up to the back of Jonas Parren. I mean, Jonas Parren was over a second and a half slower than Rosen on that last lap, and that gap is now only a second. So I think a move shall be made relatively soon, or attempted to be made relatively soon, by the Israeli driver on the home Belgian driver in Jonas Parren, who's currently in P11. But yeah, Lapnik as well, you can see just up in front, he's going to go for the move on Luca D'Amico, inside line for the Russian driver, and he's got the move made, and he is ahead and up into P9 now.
So well, as we head our way through, Yuval Rosen is the one in 12th position after working his way back up to it. I can't help but thinking he has to be in the pit lane ASAP. I just, you've had a spin, you've worked your way past what is, again, it says 23 positions gained. It's realistically around 40 positions worked up after that spin as well. That's taxing on the tyres. So you've got to say that Yuval Rosen surely will be in the pit lane in the very, very near future. I just don't see this car and these tyres lasting too much longer. That said, his pace is absolutely fine compared to Parent, compared to D'Amico, compared even to Lapnik as Yuval Rosen. I mean, look at that. His best lap time versus his last lap time, they're not that dissimilar, and that's showing the great pace and consistency that the Israeli drivers presently having.
If it's that consistent, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just going to continue and try and do the one stop. You are correct though that the tyres will be hurting, but maybe he still sees it better to continue. I mean, what's it going to be, 6 laps maybe? Oh, that's a huge send actually. That was easy pickings down in towards the bus stop. I thought it was a little bit too far back, but no, he's going to make that stick. But yeah, realistically, we're not actually so far away from making that easy one stop. If you can go, there's extra 5 or 6 laps. So I'm pretty sure he's going to try and hold on to that, because I think he would have stopped already. As Felipe comes into the pit lane, and as you've probably worked out by now, in the tower, everyone with the green number 1 next to him has already taken their pit stop. So you're already seeing those people who cycle to the back, and everyone at the top still owes us a pit stop, as Vertrick as well comes into the pit lane.
He has come into the pit lane with a couple now, isn't he? So pit stops being made. We see Peter now, and on the back, well, he's just trying towards turn 1. I mean, he's going to try and get after Tatara in the Ferrari in front of him, but too much going on for him at the moment. We've not seen too much of him over the past near enough an hour, give or take 12 seconds, and yeah, he's driven relatively conservatively and well over this first hour of the race, but there's still a lot of racing to go, still a lot of pit stops to be made, and a lot of strategy calls to be completed.
Yeah, Rui Felipe has just come out of the pit lane behind this battle as well. So Rui Felipe is well engrossed in that battle inside sort of at the top, deep inside the top 10, 6th, 7th, 5th, that kind of area. He's well embroiled in that kind of battle. Now has a bit of traffic to navigate. Kovalevsky, whilst it says he's been into the pit, and that's for a drive-through penalty, he's not actually made a pit stop in this race, as Jacek Kovalevsky, so he'll be into the pit lane again in the near future. Bjorn Peter, they say, struggling a little bit, has had a couple of slowdown penalties for abusing track limits. Did obviously have one after he got passed by Vlad Tatara, so that's where that gap's kind of grown to around about 4 seconds. Here is Julian Kunze, almost breaching the 2-minute 20 margin, but I don't think it's particularly pushing that hard at the moment. Maybe looking for a little bit of fuel saving, maybe looking for a little bit of just hitting the numbers, nothing too crazy. 1 hour, 23 minutes left to go in this race. If we get to 1 hour 12 and beyond, that is halfway in this race. So if they can get that far, then it's definitely a one-stop strategy. At this point, every single lap you can tick off, every single corner you can go further. It's just making the second half of your race and that final part of it much more comfortable. You don't really want to be pitting an unnecessary amount of time. At the best of times, even around Spa on the GP pit lane, it's still really slow.
Yeah, it's a pretty slow pit lane. It's a long pit lane, as we're going to see. Is this Rui Felipe there trying to make some moves, as that's going to be Kovalevsky dropping back into that 16th place. Of course, these two both made their pit stops, but Kovalevsky was quite a while ago now, actually. So will definitely be a bit of a tyre performance imbalance between the two, as Felipe continues his race on there. From 15th place, Perrin is dropping down as he come into the pit lane, as Tatara as well dropping down. Maybe he's in the pit lane too. So definitely it's pit stop time, as we're just about 10 minutes short from a definite one stop. So these people, we're still not 100% sure if they're going to make it to the end.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting. I mean, the guys who are looking for that one stop going halfway include Rosen, and Rosen is looking. I mean, we were talking about him making a 2-stop after the pace he showed at the start of the race, but I mean, his last lap was a 19.8, which was the fastest of anybody last time around. So he really is still on the pace, and I mean, I wouldn't count him out necessarily from the top 5. Yeah, I mean, he is really showing some cracking pace. 2 seconds quicker, Luca D'Amico in front of him, and not sure what is out of the question, because he has shown some cracking pace. Jonas Perrin putting in behind Sanchez for P17 and 18 after his pit stop, but Lazarenko and Norm's now going at it towards Lecom.
Yeah, so there's going to be the move from the best named driver on this grid. You've got to say it. I mean, realistically, there is no better name than Norman Norms. That's a brilliant name. It's a very normal name. It's normal Norman Norms. Oh, say that 5 times fast. Goodness me. Either way, he's on the rear end of Lazarenko, trying to make that move again. Yet to come into pit lane, as we alluded to. I think anyone that's pitted now, it's not that they might be able to make it on that stop. They're not going to be. They can't do an hour and 20 minutes on one tank, surely not, as Yuval Rosen works his way past D'Amico. Next one on the target list is Lapanik, and you can see Lapanik coming through the foreground, a shot there. This has been an incredible stint for Yuval Rosen. He's closing up to the driver who he had contact with earlier on in the race, in the very early stages. In fact, it's on the second lap of this race, and he's already closing onto the rear end of Lapanik. And Lapanik has not been slow. Let's just clarify that. So very impressive from the Porsche driver to close up the back end of the Mercedes. As we look on the rear wing of that Mercedes AMG that belongs to Mikael Lapanik, coming up over the crest. That is a looming sight, a dark, pitch black Porsche 911 RSR closing right onto the rear end. And you know that car's rapid in a straight line as well. And
just looking at the lap times, on the previous lap, there was only 3 people faster than Yuval Rosen. So he had the 4th fastest lap last time around. So he's really got the pace. And of course, 2 of them were Kunze and Lakovsky up ahead. So he's really got some pace in that car, as we've been talking about. And he's really starting to push and catch these drivers ahead. Lapanik is, of course, our first one that you've been mentioning. 3 seconds roughly is the gap, and I do think he'll be seeing him a bit later in the race. Is that Norm's there into the pit lane, as we're definitely starting to see that tower light up with the red for the drivers being in the pit lane. Lukic as well in the pit lane this time around. So yeah, we're getting to that point where they can get to the end. But you're right, Lewis, with what you were saying earlier, that if they couldn't do the 1 hour 12 in that first stint, realistically, they're not going to do more than that in this second stint. So there is going to be probably a 10-15 minute splash for a few of these drivers at the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely so, and I think it'll be interesting to see. Is that Botti coming into the pit lane? I think it was out of the final couple of corners. And yes, that is little red lights next to his name showing that he is in the pit lane. But yeah, we're approaching half distance, and we're approaching that point where I think it's very easy to say that the drivers would be able to get to the end of the race. But just as of yet, it's going to be a little bit more nip and tuck for these guys coming into the pit now. Parvan joining Botti in there at the moment. Still a long way to go, and yeah, some of the pace, Lapanek and Rosen, the pace that they are showing at the moment is quite scintillating, and it is going to push them up more towards the top 5.
Well, with Parvin and Alessandro Botti into the pit lane, Lapanek also comes in to get right away from Yuval Rosen. Where are they going to be? Parvin, I think Rosen might have also come into the pit lane as well. Certainly has. There we are. Yeah, so Yuval Rosen also in the pit lane. So Parvin and Botti, where are they going to come out comparatively to Rui Felipe? That is the question for me, because obviously Rui Felipe kind of involved in that sort of battle, obviously pitting a little earlier. Obviously he's coming through now, way ahead of Parvin, onto the rear end, I believe, of Botti. There is Luis Gamero. There is Botti on the exit pit lane, and there, behind that, is the Audi R8 charging of Rui Felipe. So this could be pretty close for Alessandro Botti to potentially lose the position here, because Rui Felipe presently in that 10th spot with the overspeed with the exit from that first corner. Alessandro Botti fresh out of the pit lane, colder tyres on board that Mercedes AMG. This could be the move that Rui Felipe needs.
As he gets the slipstream, he's got the momentum up towards Les Combes. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to make it, unfortunately, for Felipe. But this is actually just showing maybe the undercut as such is quite powerful there. Of course, Botti in such a good place. Felipe wasn't quite in shout maybe sort of 15-20 minutes ago, but oh, look at this, it is pit stop time. Quite a few drivers couldn't go the extra couple of laps. He's going to be splash and dash at the end for a few of these drivers, as there is Kunze and Latkovsky. Is this just going to be a 2-stop for all these drivers today?
Going to be interesting to see. I mean, these top 2, they've been under control for a lot of this race so far, and they've not really had much fighting to do, so they've just been pounding out the laps, lap after lap, and they haven't quite been able to make it halfway, which is interesting to see. Sven Mackenberg then takes the lead of the race, as Kunze and Latkovsky are in the pit lane, but Grote as well might just about be able to get past Kunze on the exit. We'll wait and see about that one. Vigneron also coming in. Luca D'Amico might be the next one, with Luca Butrich just behind them as well. But really is pit stop time. It really is interesting to see who's going to go for a little bit of fuel at the end. It might be necessary for quite a few of the drivers. We'll just have to wait for how many are going to have to take care.
Do you know, I think Sven Mackenberg is on the 1-stop here. Just a little hunch that I had. Obviously, watched him racing at Spa. Obviously, they had some issues during that race. That was a 2-hour race anyway. I'm also the Nürburgring. I'm pretty sure when we were talking about various things through the race, and losing concentration because we were losing our marbles that weekend, Cam. I think Sven Mackenberg, I'm pretty confident he's trying a 1-stop here, that he's going to try and get the distance. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we won't know now. Again, a reminder, 1 hour 12 minutes. That is the halfway point. That would explain a little bit of the lack of pace comparatively to the top 2, because we know Sven Mackenberg is plenty fast enough. Christian Grote and Luca D'Amico also potentially in that boat. They need to complete this lap and one more to really confirm as to whether they are going to try, at least at a bare minimum, try a 1-stop.
He came 3rd last year, did Sven Mackenberg, and I'm 99% sure he did a 1-stop that day as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going for that this time around. Just a year later, obviously, some things don't change. And I'm just checking this. Yeah, he was also in the Bentley last year as well. So he's definitely comfortable with that machine around this track. And as you say, he's so close. I'm sure with him sitting in that slipstream a little bit earlier at one point as well, he would have been able to save a little bit there. So I agree with you. I think he's trying to go Because if you think about it, by the time they've done their pit stop time as well, that adds an extra minute or so. Can he do one more? Yes, he can. It's going to be the one stop with the 2 minutes of the lap plus the pit stop time. That should be an easy, well, quotation marks, easy one stop from him. And Grota continues too.
That's going to put him up into contention, isn't it? Of course, with this race in the balance. I mean, if Kunze and Latkowski carry on the pace that they are currently at, it might be easy for them, or possible for them, to try and catch back up to Sven Mackenberg, make that move by the end. But we still see some fighting here. P14, Polgar, Olnilas, 414 coming into down through Rivage as they continue through Sector 2. But there's lots of fighting to be had. But yes, Sven Mackenberg, we've got a yellow flag. Well, that's Lapanek. According to the timing page, yes he is. He's going below Rosen, and yes he is at Puon. Oh dear, Lapanek. I mean, Rosen didn't have to pass him on track then. I mean, he could just drive past the stricken Russian.
Yeah, which to be fair, he might actually be disappointed in. There's something about really putting a big move on someone that's wronged you through the race. That's just like, oh, I can't even say what I would say in the car if that were the case. But it would be definitely not PG. Either way, focusing back onto the race. I'm seeing in chat as well. Obviously, conversations and stuff. All you lot are having. I'm still watching it. Don't worry. Confirmation that both Mackenbergs, one of them is definitely not on the strategy anymore. Both Mackenbergs and Christian Grota are both 100% going for monster strategy. Obviously, we know that now. We can see that with our own eyes. But that has been the plan all along. It's not a random thing there. They are good at fuel saving. Here comes Van Roon then around the outside of Lukic. That move is done before they get to Blanchimont. So Van Roon is able to easily take the apex in his Audi R8 on his charge back up the field. Out a little bit wide, Florian Witterick goes because he wasn't able to hook it up to the first apex going through the bus stop chicane. So let's talk a little bit then about what we're expecting from Sven Mackenberg, because he's presently the big money position that we're talking about here. He's presently 35 seconds clear of Julian Kunze, who's got a little bit of traffic from D'Amico as well. He should be able to navigate in the fairly near future. Sven Mackenberg's going to come into the pit lane. If D'Amico can delay Julian Kunze any more and just slow him down a little bit, it actually works out in favour of the German. Julian Kunze's finally worked his way through, but how much time has he lost in doing so? That's the question. I think he lost a further second and a bit in that final sector, so could be fairly bad for Julian Kunze.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the gap is when Mackenberg exits the pit lane, because what's going to happen is if Kunze and people like that have to do a splash at the end, they're going to lose a minimum of 30 seconds just by going through the pit lane, with obviously the time lost from that. Plus, obviously, there'll be some seconds added on for the actual fueling as well, as D'Amico there goes into the pit lane as expected. So, yeah, whatever this gap is, if it's somewhere in the region of 20-30 seconds, then obviously that is what Kunze is then going to drop back into. So Mackenberg needs to keep himself as close as possible to have a chance of winning this race, and that is of course going to be the battle now. Kunze has got a pace advantage arguably as well, because he won't have to save as much as Mackenberg, but certainly Mackenberg has a bigger shout to win this race than he did if he just followed the train behind.
So I mean, I don't think anybody had a chance if they didn't try something different apart from the Kunze and Latkowski, because behind Botti is a long, long way back still after those pit stops. 17 seconds. It was 20 at one point. It is back out now to 17. Rui Felipe right by his side, but Sven Mackenberg is going to come out in 5th place. He is going to be in that window of Kunze if he was having a splash, around that window if he's going to have that splash and dash towards the end. And it's going to be important to pump in the lap times when he can if he has any hope of winning this race.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, this is turning into what will become quite the battle. I'm getting the feeling that those two strategies are going to meet at the end of the race. There's just something about it. Sven Mackenberg, if he can keep it on the road, keep it clean and keep going, I do get the feeling that we might well see an all-German fight at the top of the Spa 2.4 hour here on RaceRoom between Sven Mackenberg and Julian Kunze on wildly different strategies. An hour and 9 minutes left to go. Julian Kunze then leads as everyone has completed their first round of pit stops. It's by 4 seconds over Cody Nikola-Latkovsky. He's had a few slowdown penalties today. Alessandro Botti and Rui Felipe continued their fight for third position on the grid. Then Sven Mackenberg on a one-stop strategy. Daniel Pavel in sixth position. Then Sanchez, Gröter as well on a one-stop strategy. Then Parent and Vigneron inside the top 10. Yuval Rosen's charge has slowed down a little bit with a 10-second gap up to Vigneron, but he's cleared Lapinick and worked his way back up the order. Retirements from the race include Tokar, Dubois, Rokas, Deby, and I do believe very recently Luis Gamero has also added himself to the retirement list. So 4 retirements out of 35, Cam. To be fair, that is not too bad.
That really isn't, and considering we have seen quite a few, harsh overtakes and bumping and cars spinning in front of others as well, you potentially would expect some more. We've seen some huge crashes into the wall as well, but those drivers like Mackenberg and Coughlin have continued, which is good to see as we're getting this run up towards Blanchimont. We got Parent in the Audi, we got the Mercedes in behind of Vigneron, getting the run up towards the final bus stop chicane. This is, of course, one of the best overtaking opportunities. Hard braking zone. Mercedes looks to the inside, but not this time around. Has to file in behind. And, of course, now with pit stops and everything sorted out, it is clean battles on track.
It is, and these guys really are going at it. 9th and 10th at the moment, but that may change as we get through the race. Botti and Philippe then for P3 and P4. These two very close on track after the pit stop, but Botti currently in that podium position. Philippe will be pushing on, I'm sure, over the next 67 minutes or so. I mean, we're looking at the gaps as well. You look at Rosen, it's 9 seconds behind Parent and Vigneron, and we'll have to see how much he can gain on those two. Last lap around, he gained more than a second and a half on Vigneron and more than 2.7 seconds on Jonas Parent, so that gap is coming down. And we have a little look at Luca D'Amico, who's currently in P18. Might be trying to find a couple more positions.
He's just going to spin at the final corner. I think he might have taken too much curb on the right-hand side. It's very easy to do and has looped it around because he managed to get back going again. Could have been through contact as well, of course, but Luca D'Amico dropped back to 18th position, was the recent causer of a yellow flag. Here comes Parent and Vigneron. Vigneron with the inside line as they head down towards Rivage. Parent's trying to get around the outside, and these two will continue their fight just inside the top 10. Vigneron to 9th, Parent to 10th. And again, Yuval Rosen, what is he? 7.4 seconds off the rear end of these two. If they continue to fight, that will be nothing in no time, as the Israeli is once again closing his way up. We'll also keep our eye on some of the other close battles up and down the field when it comes to time-wise. Post pit stops, the lap times are decent, not earth-shattering. We're not quite getting into fastest lap territory. Julian Kunze, though, is just set a 2-minute 19.0. The fastest lap of the race has been set by Kunze with a 2-minute 18.6, so roughly 4/10 slower than that. But there aren't many drivers inside the 19s at the moment. You only have Julian Kunze, Cody Nikola-Latkovsky, recent lap times Alessandro Botti and Rui Felipe have just worked their way inside them as well. But Yuval Rosen and Mikael Lapinick are the only other drivers inside the 2-minute 19s at the moment. That's how quick those are, and that explains why they've been working their way up the order.
Yeah, it looks like even just from some of the drivers' fastest laps of the race, there's so many drivers not even in the 19s for their fastest laps. So these top drivers doing 19s consistently just shows you the pace that they've got. Here is Botti, though, defending from Rui Felipe, coming up the straight towards Les Combes, and this is going to be the fight that we're, of course, going to have to watch out for in the next few laps or so. Felipe has been close, or somewhat in the region for quite a while, but not been able to make the overtake stick. I wonder if he's almost sitting there on purpose for now, just trying to save a bit of fuel, save a bit of tyres, and fight later on, because as ever, they do have long stints towards the end, maybe a splash in there as well. So definitely not the rush to make the overtake, but certainly he's in a good place.
Definitely is for the last, just over an hour or so. We're getting through this race quite quickly, actually. It's going past wonderfully fast. Well, I say wonderfully fast. I mean, I don't mean that I'm enjoying the fact that there's not much left, but I'm enjoying the race that we're having because there are lots of little battles like Van Roon, like Florian Vutric as they come up over Roofdown Rally towards the Camel Straight, and we'll have to see what they can do. Currently over P16, we'll see if there's any slower drivers in front. I mean, you can just see just directly in front of these two is Bruno Ornelas as well, in the Portuguese driver in P15. So there is battling still going on, but yeah, just over an hour to go. The battles, I think, will start, the moves being made will start to be increasingly important, as there will be an increasingly large urge for some of these drivers to get the move done before the end of the race.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, this race is flying past. For every minute that passes, actually 60 seconds in real time. Fun fact. Sorry, mate. I just had to. But of course, no, you're absolutely right. As we're heading into the final moments of the race, I think Yuval Rosen and Mikael Lapnik and some of the moves they've made coming up through the field, right? A lot of drivers haven't fought them quite as hard because there's no need to. You know that it's a pointless fight. As we're getting into the final hour of this race, that is going to change up. Those moves will become more difficult. Those moves will become more hard fought. There will be more defensive moves. It won't be as easy. And that's the same for a lot of fights up and down the order, where earlier on in the race, there might have been the thoughts of this battle's not worth wasting my time on. Now it is like, no, this battle is worth wasting my time. That's the entire reason I'm here on a Saturday evening, is to race with these people.
That is very true. You do come to the track for a race, and if you see cars ahead of you, I mean,
we are really stating the obvious, man. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. But what I mean is, something you're not just going to sit around for a Sunday drive. As they come up towards this final chicane of 3 wide, is that going to be almost in towards the braking zone round the outside? It is going to be there, and that is a very nice move from Van Roon, as of course that car goes off into the pit lane to spoil that battle a little bit. Although actually it was. Was that Lukic? No, it wasn't actually. That's a car lap down. My bad, unfortunately. Ornelas coming towards the start-finish line, trying to make it stick, and I completely messed up because that is Van Roon in the black car, Vutric in the white car, going all over the place actually with the lap car getting completely in the way, messing up with the battle. As they try and get the slipstream now up towards the Kemmel Straight. Of course, is one of the better overtaking opportunities. You get the massive slipstream, about 2 kilometers of a straight line, but is he going to be close enough into Lake On?
And Van Roon is not got any more back marks to disturb him now as he tries to get past Florian Vutric, but he's not going to get that move towards Les Combes on this lap. Maybe a little bit of an inside line there. Nothing doing for the Swiss driver. In the pit lane, that was in the pit lane. We'll go back to Van Roon. Florian Vutric at the moment, but they are still fighting away at this stage of the race. We'll have to see who is going quickly and who is going slowly, maybe a little bit inside line, pushing the limits at the moment, Van Roon, to try and find a way past, but he's not quite able to find the line. Rosen as well, gaining very much on Jonas Parren, and is very close to the back of the Belgian driver now. As Van Roon to the inside, and he gets the move done now into Bourne.
That was a pretty big send from Van Roon. So making his way past Florian Vutric. Bjorn Peter is the one causing the yellow flag in the third and final sector, as he's having some problems. It's not even in the third sector. Thank you to those graphics. That is definitely in the first, and that is one broken Mercedes. Holy cow. That has seen better days, is about as well. I can only guess that would have been a serious bin at the top of Radio, of which we have seen some of the world's best drivers. I remember waking up nice and early in the morning to see the 24 Hours of Spa. Was it 2019, 2018, when Dennis Lind binned it there? He's not watching, it's fine.
Yeah, it's certainly an easy corner to do that. The car goes really light over the top of the crest, and if you don't have quite full control of the rear end of the car, you can be spinning. Yeah, there's definitely been a big, heavy front-end collision for that Mercedes. I wonder if he'll end up coming and repairing that one. As we see the battle with Rui Felipe trying to catch down on Botti. He's been this gap and this sort of distance behind for quite a while now. He hasn't had that proper chance to get back, as we've seen Parren and Sanchez in the pit lane. Is that for a second pit stop already, but still an hour to go in this race, so definitely some different strategies going around today.
Yeah, lots of interesting strategies going on down at the back there, but that squeeze up Rosen to chase after Vigneron for P8 now. Van der Roon is clear now, P13, as he continues his march. He's got Grönig, the next car in front, which is about 6 seconds or so up the road from him. We'll have to see if he can get anywhere near the fellow Swissman. The Swiss driver, Grönig, in 1200 is definitely not Swiss. Very Dutch indeed. But yes, lots of racing still to go. An hour to go. Kunze still leads by quite a healthy margin.
Sorry, I get comfortable with this hand, don't worry about it. I think it's absolutely fine. We'll move on. I've made some pretty big mistakes on that one. In fact, actually, the big one that you can make is in future if you call Cam an Englishman. He loves it. Julian Kunze, anyway, is leading by 5.5 seconds. Back towards this fight, Jonas Parent on the back of Sanchez. You can tell it's Jonas Parent just because of the very distinctive Belgian. That is a great choice of livery, by the way. I love that. I didn't even know it was in the game. Fantastic livery. And what a circuit for it to come out at.
Yes, perfectly timed. And also with the driver at the wheel as well. Awesome to see that one as this battle gets closer once again between the two who have just made their pit stop. And actually, I want to see when we get to the end of the race how close some of these two stops versus the ones are going to be, because of course you have different points of the race where you are at your advantage, as that is Felipe getting closer once again for that third place. They've got a bit of lap traffic up ahead. Is that going to play a factor? We'll soon find out. We did see some lap traffic getting slightly in the way of some leaders not so long ago, so that can always be a factor where you just lose a little bit of momentum coming onto a straight, and then Botti will be losing that position.
But yeah, those lap traffic may start to become a little bit disruptive by the end of the race. I mean, Julian Kunze has lapped quite a few drivers. Next up to lap, I think, is 24th placed Frieder Brahn. So he's lapped quite a few drivers, and there are quite a few now littered around the track who are not on the lead lap. So that'll come into a little bit of come into play in the last hour here at Spa. 30.4 hours of the circuit, Spa-Francorchamps. But Botti currently in third, as he has been since the opening laps, and he is very. I'm not sure. He's not going to be aiming, I don't think, for Nikola Lapkowski, because he is a long way up the road. I mean, he said goodnight a long time ago. It's 19 seconds now for the Italian to make up, which I can't see happening unless Lapkowski makes a bit of an error. I
mean, there is some errors on the horizon, courtesy of some slowdown penalties, maybe even a drive-through penalty. If there are any too far, I've seen Cody Nikola Lapkowski has appeared on the list for slowdown penalties quite a few times. I think he's doing perfectly fine, but he has appeared on that list a lot. Has Cody Nikola Lapkowski in his hunting down Julian Kunze. I think pace-wise he's actually matching Julian Kunze pretty closely. I think the most of the time that's been lost has been from the odd slowdown penalty, out to 5.8 seconds now, as Cody Nikola Lapkowski drops even further off the rear end of Julian Kunze. But he's keeping them close enough, bearing in mind that's an hour and a half's worth of racing that Kunze's and the whole grid's been doing. Kunze has been kept fairly close, and let's not forget that we are at the point in the race where we are expecting those pit stops and stuff. We are at the point where we could expect the one stops and no stop, the one stops versus the two stops to be quite interesting. There coming out of the pit lane is Bjorn Peter with a slightly repaired car that I think he almost might have been immediately, as we see Lukic versing with Norman Norms.
Yeah, and he actually made that position stick for 27th place. They are also at that about 1.5 laps or so, 1.25 laps up behind the lead, unfortunately, but still battling, as we've got Herzog here and Kovalevsky coming down. The two BMWs coming towards turn one. I think Kovalevsky got overtaken there as Herzog takes that 18th position in that bus stop chicane at some point, I believe. And now coming up once again towards the Kemmel Straight. Is there anything that Kovalevsky can do to come back? Obviously on that 2-stop strategy, he's made his second stop already. Can he do anything to fight? Whereas Herzog got this one sorted. We'll have to wait and find out. As it stands though, the gap is getting bigger. Herzog looks to be able to defend that one.
I might be completely wrong with this. Did Kovalevsky serve a drive-through, which is why he's got 2?
Yeah. Yes, he did earlier on for ignoring the slowdown.
Yes, that's it. I was thinking, I was thought high up after where he was before, after doing 2 pit stops, but yes, no. So he's there on the back of Herzog, but there is a battle to be had there. Felipe still though on the back of Botti. We've said it for well over half an hour now that these two are not side by side, but very close together. For 3rd and 4th place, Sven Mackenberg. Not too far back either. I mean, 12 seconds is quite a ways back, but you know, it's not as much as 21 seconds is the gap between Botti and Lapkovsky now. So the gaps are forming, but there are the battles still arising, like Botti and Felipe in front of our eyes.
Yeah, by the way, I'm just taking a look at instant points, things like that, and that shows track excursions, etc. Anyone who's maybe thinking that Cody Lapkovsky is in trouble when it comes to instant points because of how many times? No, he's not. He's got more than enough to last him the next 53 minutes. He has got about 4 times to 5 times the amount of instant points as Julian Kunze, though. So read into that what you will. Kunze's just been pretty perfect in the opening hour and a half of this race. That does not mean the next 50 minutes will go his way, as Rui Felipe was closing into Alessandro Botti and did not go for a move, as here's Kovalevsky trying to get past Herzog. Look to the outside coming through Blanchimont. That move was not on the table as these two BMW M4s battle their way over 18th position. The defensive line's not going to be taken by Herzog, and so that'll be Jacek Kovalevsky down the inside. A little bit too deep though, read beautifully by Herzog. He's trying to get his way back through, lifts off on the exit to allow the Polish driver up into 18th position as Tatara is trying to join this fight. He's not said Tatar to 18th position just yet. Again, another stretch when it comes to the name, but I will keep giving them a go.
I'm just going to ignore that one. Herzog there down in towards 19th place, losing that place that he gained last time round. Does he have anything to come back now? Is it actually going to be Kovalevsky who can pull away in this battle, or are they going to keep yo-yoing? We'll soon find out. But there's, what's that, about 7 seconds? Yeah, decent gap up ahead of them. So that is really the fight that they need to focus on. In towards the final chicane though, Felipe getting closer and closer. There was half an opportunity there, but he didn't really even make an attempt. I do wonder if he's just trying to save a bit of fuel and sit in behind, put some pressure on Botti he's just sat there at this distance for so long now. Surely that is by choice and not by the fact that he can't get through.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely part of it. I mean, of course, with being that close, he could try and sit and wait until later on in the race. He's still got 51 minutes. It's quite a while to try and make his way through for the podium position here for Spot 24 Hour, but he's got that gap behind of Sven Mackenberg, so he's not got too much pressure from behind, and he can just focus on trying to find a way through Botti eventually by the end of the race. Lots of thought, I think, going on in that car down in the Audi. Yeah, Botti doing a very good job at the moment, defending and keeping in P3. As he loses time to the top two, but he's not panicking. He's staying very consistent, very clean, relatively clean, and yeah, staying in P3 at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the just quickly looking at lap times, because of the most recent lap times that were set. Julian Kunze has worked his way back into the 2-minute 18s. Now this is important because comparatively, as there you go, you can see it, the second of those two numbers at the bottom of the screen. Best lap 2-minute 18.6, last lap 2-minute 18.9. Compared to as the yellow flag comes out for Lukic and his blue Ferrari, Sven Mackenberg has just set a 2-minute 19.8. It's about a second slower than Julian Kunze. This is obviously important because Sven Mackenberg is on a one-stop strategy and will not be returning to the pit lane this evening. Julian Kunze only has to do a splash of fuel. It will be with around about 10 to 15 minutes left to go in this race. He will not be taking tyres in that stop. It will just be fuel. I'm not sure what the gap is required for Sven Mackenberg to hang on to the race lead, but I can imagine at this point, with 40 seconds between, will be quite close. Let's go with that, and potentially, definitely in favour of the German of Julian Kunze.
And even if he doesn't get the lead, though, Mackenberg will be a lot closer than if he had copied the same strategy. So I definitely think this is going to work. Felipe there, I think he was basically just sat there saving a bit of fuel so that he shortened this final stop as much as possible. Still 49 minutes to go. Just showing you completely different strategies we're getting. I mean, you're talking about Kunze doing just a little splash and dash for a few laps, but that is quite a lot of fuel that he'll have to take there for Felipe. It's probably like 3/4 of a tank that he'll need. Dropping down the way, of course, but there will be other drivers doing a similar strategy. He's just one of the first ones to pit.
He is, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if anybody else follows in the next couple of laps. We see Rosen to the inside, Vigneron, and he's Vigneron there? No, I think it's a lap car.
That was Bjorn Peter.
Yes, thank you. Took a second there, but yes, that's a lap car. He's through. He's through that lap traffic, and he's past Felipe. He's in that pit lane, but he is gaining on Vigneron on that gap, but now only down to just under 3 seconds. He gained another half a second on that last lap, and after 40 laps, he is in P8 after starting right at the back of the field. So he really has a very, very, very solid evening.
So Rui Felipe then with quite a short stop there. Normally we'd expect the last the pit lane signals to be included to be quite considerably slower than that. So Rui Felipe has not gone for a particularly long stop here for his final one at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Kind of makes me think maybe he's actually just not taken tyres and it is just fuel on board. Maybe he has taken tyres, don't know. We will find out. At the moment he's in 9th position. He's come out of the pit lane not a million miles off the rear end of the Israeli driver of Yuval Rosen, who is in 8th position. You can kind of see there just in the background, that is where Rui Felipe has been, just going out of the crest of Malmedy. Also Marish Zabdir into the pit lane for what will be his final stop. Just 3/4 of an hour left to go in the Spa 2.4 hour. Julian Kunze still comfortably in the lead of the race. I've got to say though, lap times from Cody Nikola Latkovsky have been very impressive. He has been I wouldn't say keeping close, but hasn't been letting Julian Kunze run away with it too far. The gap came down 1/10 of a second on the previous lap. Obviously, it's nothing major, but it's more he's just keeping Julian Kunze at arm's length. If there is a mistake from the German, the Macedonian will almost certainly pick up the pieces from this position.
Yeah, after, what's that, like an hour and 40 odd minutes of this race, to be only 6 seconds, 7 seconds behind is a really good job. If you divide that like per lap, it really isn't much at all. So really good job from Latkovsky to hold on, but just maybe there's those slow down penalties, maybe just a couple of little mistakes here and there. Just a couple of tenths will add up over the course of that time. But as you're saying, to be that close just shows you how close they are on pace, and you can't really be too disappointed with that one. Latkovsky, though, finishing second last year, he definitely won't want to finish second for the second year in a row as well. There's too many number twos, and everyone in racing just cares about being that number one driver, which of course Latkovsky is one of the top guys here on RaceRoom, but he's completely got Botti covered behind. He's just, he's in a little bit in the middle of nowhere on his own at the moment.
He is really, but you never know. I mean, Julian Kunze, there may be a mistake. The German, who looks incredibly imperious at the moment, but still 46 minutes, still room for just that little error that causes a spin that gives Latkovsky that centre victory, and it wouldn't take too much to catch up. The gap here is only 7 seconds. It has accumulated over 41 laps, so it's not too much per lap, and he is inning as he did on that last lap. But yes, a lot of competition behind. Botti might be confused as to, not confused maybe, but maybe wondering where Felipe is, considering that he pitted from just behind him. But yeah, lots of interesting strategies going on. With only 45 minutes to go, I think we're getting to the stage where they are starting to shake out. Of course, Kunze will probably have to go for that splash and dash towards the end of the race, but all the others who have to do similar strategies might go slightly different. It's all up in the air at the moment, and it remains to be seen who will come out on top. But Kunze does look like he's in a very safe spot at the moment.
Yeah, he's definitely got this race covered in terms of the pace, and the strategy should be okay because I think he has enough gap from Mackenberg, but we will find out because obviously the thing is that he's just going to keep on gaining time because of how fast he is. He's just going to gain time every lap until the pit stop as well. So he should, I think, have enough time to at least come out with Mackenberg. The thing that Mackenberg needs to worry about is maybe like Lakovsky for that second place. That could be a big option. He's definitely got Botti covered. He's about 12 seconds behind Botti. He's definitely got that one covered when Botti makes his splash and dash, but it's the likes of Lakovsky and Kunze that he really is going to worry about. Still a very, very strong performance nevertheless. It's so nice actually to see these strategies though. This is actually one reason why I prefer a 2.4 hour race compared to just a straight 2 hour race, because if it was a 2 hour race, everyone would be easy one stop, pit roughly on the hour mark or maybe just after, and then easy to the end of the race without any sort of thought about the strategy. But because we've got this added into it, it's really nice to see that extra element of a potential 2-stop versus the 1-stop strategy.
Yeah, definitely, and it's interesting when you have all of the different strategy options. We've seen more than 10 different strategies surely being trialled here. We've got the likes of Kunze going for the splash and dash. You've got Mackenberg going for the 1-stop. We've got a couple of drivers, including Felipe, doing more of a 2-stop, a more consistent 2-stop. More of a safer bet in terms of equaling out the length of the stints. Yeah, lots of change, lots of interest, and yeah, I mean, there are a few drivers that have done well. I mean, Lapanek hasn't been able to progress as far as Rosen has after the early stages when they were both gaining up through the mid-pack. But, yeah, they've both done well. Polgar as well, I remember seeing, has been up quite a few positions after starting in more towards 25th position, somewhere in that region. We see Tatara now just in front of Sanchez, just behind Herzog in this little train for 18th, 19th and 20th.
Yeah, it is quite a fight. Sorry, my microphone's about 3.5 kilometres away from my face there. It is quite a tight fight. Jonas Parren also involved in the fight as well. So it is quite a tight little battle here involved. So we've got a good fight for the final 40 minutes or so, waiting to see who requires pit stops in this grouping as well. Here comes a massive send from Tatara. He's got the big overspeed. It could be 3 wide though, because there could also be another one as Sanchez is looking to the inside, making it 3 wide, heading into Lake Com. Sanchez and Tatara both get their way past Herzog, and the outside run's being taken by Jonas Parren, who might well be able to work his way through in the Audi R8. Yellow flag comes out courtesy of Lazarenko. So there is another incident, unfortunately for the Ukrainian driver. Whilst one Ukrainian driver is struggling, the other one sweeping his way past to move into 18th position.
And Herzog almost lost 3 places there, as you mentioned, with Parren getting close. So it just shows you that the battles, of course, continue later on into these races as well. Parren getting closer up towards Blanchimont. Herzog's been struggling a little bit. He got overtaken by Kovalevsky not too long ago. Now has lost another 2 places. Tatara. Sanchez got through, of course, the 2 Ferraris there. Doesn't want to make it 3 in 1 lap, so he needs to try and hold on through this sequence of corners. But then the Audi, as ever, will get that slipstream up towards Blanchimont and the final bus stop chicane, which will be the next opportunity to overtake.
Will, and there are lots of opportunities to overtake. I think we've seen in this race that there are loads of different areas. See Bates maybe going for Norms here. Norman Norms is going to get overtaken here by the British driver into Le Carmisi. He like not too much of a fight there, but still 25th position. These guys still, they are off the back somewhat, but they are still fighting it out, as we see Florian Wutrecht, who's a few positions ahead of his brother, 2 positions ahead, in fact. Actually, 2 positions, well, just the one, there's nothing between them, as Gruening and Van Ryn have both pit. So they're still together. It's been over an hour and a half, and yeah, they are still right next to each other.
You went back and forth on that almost as much as Cam earlier when he was trying to work out who was involved in that fight. They were 2 positions apart, no positions apart. They were in the same car at one point and all that. Goodness me. Into the pit lane, though, you're absolutely right. Herzog, Gruening and Van Ryn into the pit lane. Lazarenko, unfortunately, joins the retirement list, makes it 5 retirements on the day. Lazarenko, Luis Gamero, then Rokas to be Dubois and also Tokar, all retirements, unfortunately, for the 2.4 hours of Spa, as Vlad Tataru is going to try and defend from Sanchez. And Kevin Sanchez to the inside line, coming up towards Les Comps. The centre of the inside, Ferrari versus Ferrari. It could be a good hold, though, from Tataru, who's trying to hang it around the outside of Les Comps, unable to do so on this occasion. And it will be Kevin Sanchez working his way up into 16th position. Wow, it was close to contact coming through Malmedy.
Those Ferraris look good in a straight line up towards the Les Comps chicane. We saw that last time around. Getting past the BMW as well of Herzog, who's gone into the pit lane. That's why he's dropped down even further away from this battle. Of course, Perrin now on the back of the two Ferraris, three-way fight, and they've just got in the background. There's a lap down, I think, a car actually, unfortunately, in the background. So just three-way fight as it stands, as they come through this middle sector. But it does actually look like Tataru's holding on. I think this is going to be a bit of a battle to watch for the next couple of laps. It looks like he has the pace to come back, and as ever, you're just going to be going for it at this point in the race. Most of the drivers will know the strategy by now. They'll know what they need to do, and they can just push towards the end of this race. Let's see what sort of a run Tataru can get.
I think we have moved past that part of the race, haven't we, where it's been a bit cagey, where there's been a little less need for overtaking, as these guys are either going to the end or know that they've got to push match fuel targets, or, you know, maybe conserve a little bit, but it will create a little bit more overtaking between the drivers. We see it's Rosen, and this is, I think, Rosen and Vigneron. It is Rosen and Vigneron through Les Comps and then in towards Malmedy. I don't think Rosen's been able to get past this lap, but he's going to have a little bit of a go, maybe into Rivage. No, not, yes, he is, right to the inside, bit of a late send, quite a bit of a late send. There's a tap. Oh, that's a large bit of contact. Vigneron won't be too happy about that. And oh yeah, he's lost a lot of time there. That'll just give Felipe a little bit more of an incentive push on up towards these guys.
Confirmation that Yuval Rosen is having absolutely none of it from anyone today, as he works his way up into 7th position. Yeah, that was a little cagey as Rosen was able to work his way through. Next one for him is Christian Grote, who is a long way down the road, and of course Christian Grote, importantly, is on the one-stop strategy, so we're expecting Christian Grote not to come back into the pit lane in the next 37 minutes and 50 seconds. Meanwhile, we do expect the likes of Yuval Rosen, Vigneron, Felipe, Lapanik, D'Amico, also ahead of that Daniel Parvin, Alessandro Botti, then Koji Nikola Latkovsky and Julian Kinzer, all to make their way into the pit lane on one more occasion this afternoon. So there is plenty of strategy at play and plenty more on the cards for some chops and changes in the final stage of the race. Does mean we might well see Yuval Rosen making a few more moves. It's Daniel Parvin. Wow, what a time for Chris Doe to go on board and take a look at Daniel Parvin as he loses the position to Christian Grote. The spin for the Romanian driver. Daniel Parvin's able to get back going again. That would have been very scary for Christian Grote coming through La Source. Whew, that was scary.
I'm not sure. What's actually a bit of contact? I think I did see.
There
maybe
was,
it was just
there
a
was
bit of
definitely a touch.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was just sort of a jiggle on the wheel to avoid that. But hopefully everything is okay for Grote. He's having a solid race here. Of course, not quite to the same level as Mackenberg that he was following a little bit earlier on. But yeah, Parvin there. That's a weird one. I believe that's the first car we've seen just by themselves losing it out of that first corner, but obviously just getting towards the end of the tyres, maybe getting a little bit too much heat into them and not being able to nail the throttle out of that first corner. Just showing you how easy it is and how on the limit these drivers are every single lap.
They really are pushing, but it is causing these little incidents that are giving drivers a little bit more to think about. Grote will be very thankful that he's been able to pick up P5 due to that little touch, and Rosen knows a thing or two about little touch in this race, isn't he? I think he's coming through Varge, the scene of his last little touch. Just one lap ago as he got past Vigneron, but he has more of an incentive to try and get up towards Parvin and Grote, because Grote, who was in 6th, is now in 5th. That gap has stayed the same, so he might try and push forward, but it's going to be difficult. That's quite a large gap that he would have to overcome, some 13.5 seconds up to the Romanian 6th place, but it's never out of the question. You've still got 35 minutes of the Spa 2.4 hours to go.
No, I mean, to be fair, I could see a lot of things happen in this race, and to be fair, knowing the pace of Yuval Rosen, It's kind of on the cards. I think it's difficult. Daniel Parvin is a rapid driver in his own right, so I'm not necessarily sure. We'll have to wait and see though. The changes outside of that sort of top 10, top 15 though are very much on the cards. Kevin Sanchez, Vlad Tatara, Jonas Parent all involved in this fight for 15th position. As out wide, that the gravel track was being kicked up a little bit by Kevin Sanchez. The distant Ferrari there, just going out wide, coming back into Rivage. That tells me the front left tyre is starting to struggle a little bit. When you start taking that line, it's normally because the car's understeering a fair amount going through Rivage. Obviously, it could just be you driving a little bit too high into the corner, but I'll give them some credit. Maybe it is just overheating a little bit on the front left. Maybe it is a bit of understeer coming in.
Yeah, it's nice to see that the battle has continued, though. We saw Sanchez get to the front, but he hasn't absolutely romped off in the distance, and it's kind of the other way around. He's actually almost slowed down this trio of cars, and that is great to see. This one, Tatara needs to find a way through, though, because he, of course, is in this awkward position where he's looking ahead and he's looking behind in his mirrors as well. And it's a very difficult position to be in because you don't know if the car behind you is going to lunge down the inside when you yourself are planning a move. Can he get a run, though, up towards Blanchimont this time around? He's got some good top speed in that car. We saw that a little bit early on when he made that overtake. He's getting closer and closer now. Is that too close through Blanchimont? Now up towards this final bus stop chicane. Defence to the inside for Sanchez. To the outside, Tatara goes. He's going to have to try the long way round. Not enough room there. Defence from Sanchez holds on to that position. But here comes Perrin on the exit.
Yeah, and Parham with a great exit. He's trying to find the way through these two Ferraris just in front of him, and he might try and get past Tatara around the outside at La Source Turn 1, but we'll have to see whether he can get it all the way around, looping it around. Can he get the exit he requires? Not quite that Ferrari of Tatara, defending well against the Belgian in his home 2-4-hour race. He comes up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. He might go for the run towards Les Combes, but it remains to be seen whether he'll be able to get it all the way towards the end of this long Kemmel straight. It's a bit of a gap though between Sanchez and Tatara, as I think that's Grunig as well having a look. This could be very interesting into Les Combes.
It's Kunze. It's Julian Kunze trying to work his way back through in all of this. Obviously, the race leader's trying to get his way through. He's going to sweep his way around the outside of Jonas Parent there. All these drivers are lapped down him. All these drivers in their own little fight. As it is Alessandro Botti into pit lane. We're at the changing point of this race, and Julian Kunze's got a lot of traffic to deal with. The important gap that we've really got to focus on is the 45-second gap between Julian Kunze and Sven Mackenberg, which I think is enough. Realistically, we'll have to wait and see. There is one more pit stop expected for Julian Kunze and for Cody Nikolakowski, as Alessandro Botti is the first of that top lot to come into the pit lane. That was a bit unfortunate, I've got to say, for Jonas Parent, because he had a good run, he had a good look, and was like, well, actually, never mind then.
Yeah, he's doing a good job, is Parham, but blue flags unfortunately take precedent from that as Kunze works his way through. We try not to lose too much time with Lakowski 6 seconds back, and actually Botti is coming out of the pit lane because remember, Botti was in that battle with Felipe. Felipe has made that pit stop. It's actually a little bit of a while ago now, 10 or so minutes ago, and Felipe has come out ahead of Botti, so the undercut as such seems to have worked in that case, as Botti also comes out behind Lapnik, so Botti needs to try and obviously battle that one down towards the end though. Look at this though, Parvan to the inside of Rivage, that'll be to the outside of No Name Corner. Greta to the inside, the BMW goes off the track, they come on, bit of contact as you come down the hill towards Pouon. Greta there still on the inside, but Parvan tries, doors banging, and the undercut goes for Parvan. He does the switchback after that contact. Greta couldn't get the power down, and Parvan up into that P4.
Taking him a couple of laps after that spin at the source, but he is back up into P4 now, and Greta is now falling down that little bit, but he's where he was. Or Parvan had that little bit of contact down at turn 1. I mean, all that fighting give Rosen a little bit of an incentive. That gap has come down 15 seconds to 10, so it is possible. It's 11 now, but it's still possible that gap to close further with the two fighting in front. He was able to gain about a second on Parvan on that last lap, but there is still a lot of racing to go on. We see Kunze as well, still making his way through. I think that means he's now lapped everyone up to P14 now, I believe, isn't it? Or P15, yeah, P15. is it's an incredibly impressive drive so far, and I mean, at this rate, he might be able to just get past Luca Butrix, but Luca D'Amico might be a little bit too far up the road.
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. As Rui Felipe having the troubles of lapping. That must have been a slow-down penalty for Rui Felipe at some point over the lap. I'm not actually seeing anything on, so it might have just been a terrible exit. As Rui Felipe having a couple of struggles there, losing out to Mikael Lapanek, down now to 9th position. You're absolutely right. Yeah, Julian Kunz has got to deal with Sanchez, Kovalevsky, and Vitrik aren't that far ahead. D'Amico might be too far down the road, but who knows? Like, I mean, if he can, to be fair, lapping that much of the field is pretty impressive. Although we have seen some of these events where it's like, oh, they've lapped everyone up to 3rd. Fair enough then. It just shows again these races are getting more and more competitive each year we come back. Each time we do one of these ranked events, it always seems like it is more competitive than last. It's absolutely fantastic to see, and it's what's made it so good. I did overhear Cam talking about this earlier as well, about how it's the awkward race distance. I love an awkward race distance. It's just, it's difficult. It opens up the strategy. It's not boring. Don't get me wrong, there's not a million strategies that you can take in the race, but it means that it's not a slam dunk, well, you're going to stop an hour into the race and just change tyres and away you go. There's a little bit more to it and a little bit more at play.
Yeah, I definitely love it, as Sven Mackenberg is the main one that we've been focusing on, actually trying to make that one-stop work towards the front. And so far, it seems to be working, but we've still got 28 minutes to find out if he can hold that pace and the fuel to the end of this race. Got a lapped car just up ahead, as the gap, as ever, is the one to look out for is the one to Kunze if he wants to win the race. But realistically, it's probably going to be Latkovsky that he is battling for when we get Latkovsky's final pit stop. But that won't be for probably like another 20 minutes or so. And they really, Kunze and Latkovsky, they really only will have a handful of laps at best that they need to splash towards the end. So really a short pit stop it is going to be. And so far it's 47 seconds for Mackenberg there on the tower that he is behind Kunze.
Yeah, it's a distance, but you know, it's just testament to the pace of Kunze and Latkovsky over the course of this race. 1-2 for so well since the start. And I remember Cam about over an hour and a half ago. Actually, I think it was about end of lap 1. I think it was mentioned that Kunze and Latkovsky had got away. That it could just be a 2-horse race, and I think that has very much come to fruition because it is just those two. I mean, it's still a 7-second gap. It's quite large for Kunze to be able to defend, but anything can happen. 27 minutes still to go. That pit stop also still to go for them to get to the end of the race, and there is still a lot of question marks over some of the other drivers towards the top 10. I mean, Rosen, we think, will probably have to have another pit stop. Where will he come out? Will he come out in some traffic, or will he have some clean air to bring in some more lap times like we saw towards the end of the first half of this race?
Got to remember the entry into pit lane. For one, it's quite difficult to start generally, but I will say, when it comes to pit lane anyway, one other reason why you want to avoid coming down to pit lane is that whilst in motorsport it's a big risk, just because there's a lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts in pit lane. Even in sim racing, there is a lot of risk on coming down into pit lane. Yes, there's not as many things that you can hit and all this, that and the other, but you can still break the speed limit quite easily and then get yourself a drive-through penalty, thus ruining the race. If you can avoid coming down to pit lane, you're avoiding that risk again and again and again. You're avoiding needing to take that risk by just saving the fuel out on the race circuit. You're not going to get drive-throughs for speeding in the pit lane if you're out on the racetrack only pitting once. We do see the odd occasion. I mean, me and Cam have commentated on one person, I think, getting 4, was it 5 drive-through penalties?
It's one of the Daytona races, yes.
No, I was even thinking of that. I was thinking of Monza and some a certain open wheel championship. We'll see Jonas Parent trying to make a move on Vlad Tatara. Looks to the inside, half commits, and Jonas Parent unable to do so. Yes, we've commentated on a few things in that vein when it comes to those trying to come down onto pit lane wisely, as once again Jonas Parent will commit to the outside, and this time he's able to work his way through on Vlad Tatara up into 50 position. So the position switch working in favour of the Belgian, who's now up into 15th spot.
Yeah, it's definitely speeding in the pit lane is one of those things where you just really want to avoid it where you can. It's easier. It's definitely easier said than done, though, because you always want to push the limits. But this pit lane is definitely one of those annoying ones, because it's where you have to slow down to get into it, and then you have to then speed up again before the actual pit limiter line. It's not like somewhere such as maybe a Monza or even a Silverstone, where you come into it, you're basically coming just straight off the racing line and then bang on the brakes to the pit limiter. So definitely, yeah, one of the more awkward ones. And I should say, if you can remove that risk, you, of course, well, you basically just have a better time of it. But most of these drivers should be capable of doing a 2.4 hours without speeding, but you never know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially after some of the guys getting a lot of drive-throughs, a lot of slowdowns very early on in this race. It was just a lot of consistency towards the end to make sure that there isn't an accumulation of penalties, as we sometimes see. But yeah, we're looking at Aaron here in his Belgian liveried car doing quite well. I mean, he's up into P15. I remember I think he's pitted twice now, hasn't he? So he has got a little bit further up the field to go, but you know, lots of fighting still at play. We have 24 minutes to go. Yeah, I think Ornelas here looks like he may be defending from, is that Zabdir directly behind him? It very well could be, and is. Marius Zabdir might have a run to the bus stop chicane, and we'll have to go to the inside line.
Yeah, he's going to send it. It's Marius Zabdir. Ornelas having a bit of damage on his car as well, and that is the inside line being taken from Marius Zabdir and moving his way up into 21st position on the road. So once again, a healthy move there. Callaway versus Callaway in the battle for 21st position on the road, and Marius Zabdir trying to check out. Unfortunately, it's not been the race for the Polish driver, as we expect from Marius Zabdir. To be fair, Zabdir is one of those drivers that we expect to be in the top sort of 10 in the race. I mean, it's kind of it's one of those things, really. You know, we know that Zabdir is a strong driver. Unfortunately, having a few troubles in this race.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. Yeah, it does happen. Unfortunately, every now and again, we've seen Zabdir have some really good results, but every now and again, you just get a race and it doesn't quite go your way. As Braun was just having a few issues there, causing some yellow flags, losing the place to Coughlin, as we got the three Germans there, Mackenberg, Coughlin and Braun, of course, not having the days that they would have wanted. But yeah, certainly it's difficult to have solid races like we're seeing with Julian Kunze at the front. He's just been absolutely on it, both with the pace in qualifying, then with the consistency, with the strategy in the race, although we'll have to see if that works out 100% with
you know, pit-pack is sometimes necessary every now and again, just to get the feel for the car, and sometimes pace just isn't there on a particular day. But yeah, for Julian Kunze, that is not an issue. The pace is most definitely there, because he is absolutely he has cruised through the first 2 hours and 2 minutes. I'm not going to say any more than that. Risk of a little bit of a jinx there, but yeah, he has done very well indeed, and we'll have to see whether he can carry on with his pit stop to go with 21 minutes remaining.
Do you believe in the commentator's curse, Dara?
All I'm saying is, when we did the 2.4 hour of Nürburgring for the support races, I mentioned it a couple of times that I think it was Sebastian Araya was very much in the lead, and I mentioned it that he was absolutely cruising, and Zach Sweeney said that I was hoping that he would crash, which wasn't the case. So I was, I'm covering off that possibility today.
Just to clarify to all drivers watching this broadcast right now, and all people who may think that the commentator's curse exists, I will confirm it now. The commentator's curse does not exist. Anyone who says the broadcaster's curse exists because we went on, we were taking a look at Daniel Parvin and then he spun, the broadcast curse, that also doesn't exist. Daniel Parvin spun of his own volition, right? Nothing to do with us in the broadcast. Let's just clarify this one immediately. It's not a thing. It's like, I get it, it's fine, you want to blame something else, but it's not the case. I know that there's loads of people that tell me, they're like, yeah, but it's every time that you ride on board with someone and they crash. I'm like, yeah, but there's loads of people that we don't ride on board with and they still crash. So what's that then? So no, total rubbish, that's fine. Anyway, rant over. I'm not having any of it, as we'll see Frank Van Roon on the back of Marcus Grünig, one of the many Swiss drivers on the field. Looking backwards from the big green Bentley, it had a bit of damage early on the front right, if I remember correctly, on this car. Grünig trying to defend from Frank Van Roon to try and hang on to 17th position. These two obviously a lap down on our race leader, who is yet to make his final pit stop in the race. Just 19 minutes left to go. We're expecting that one on the horizon in the next sort of 5-10 minutes.
Here comes Van Roon with a run towards the bus stop chicane. Can he get his Audi down the inside there? He's going to go for it under the brakes, side by side. It looks like he's going to have the racing line. No, the Bentley comes back around the outside to take that position back maybe. Oh, bit of contact between the two. But Grünig does hold on down this front straight towards La Source. That was a good attempt there by Van Roon, just not quite far enough ahead. Grünig had the space on the outside, so good space given between the two. Didn't push each other off the track, but still just a little bit of contact on the exit.
Yeah, and it's very close racing. I mean, we're getting into the final stage. It's less than 10 laps to go now. Looking at more, 8, 9 laps maybe at a push for these guys to go. But yeah, lots of fighting. Van Roon still going at it as we get towards these closing stages of the race. We're waiting for to make that stop. What do we probably 10 minutes or so we're looking at before he makes that stop, because it really will just be the tiniest little bit of fuel just to get him to the end. But we'll just have to see where he comes out. He should be safe to Sven Mackenberg. He's got a nice 47-second gap there, but it remains to be seen. And yeah, I mean, not long of the race to go. Who will come out on top? I think Kunze should be able to. If the commentator guys doesn't exist, then I think he's an absolute nailed on. Absolutely nailed on for the win.
Did Cody Nikolakowski have a spin?
He must have been that far behind.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think
he's not been in pit lane now, because the gap would be way larger. I think Cody Nikolakowski has most certainly had some form of problem in the fairly recent past, because he's lost around 20 seconds to the race leader. Now, I was only curious. I was like, maybe he's been in pit lane, and I was like, no, that wouldn't make any sense. It'd have to be longer than that. And as you can see on our screen, it's definitely not.
And do you know what this means? Sven Mackenberg will have the gap with that splash and dash. It's 20 seconds at the moment, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be just the time for the pit stop, you know, for the drive-through, basically, let alone the actual time to splash. So I think Mackenberg has a really strong shout now of that second place ahead of Latkowski once this all works itself out. Definitely going to be an interesting one. If that, it definitely says number one.
It does say two. It does say two.
Ooh,
by the way,
drive-through penalty. Maybe.
I was going to say, I've not received anything that says drive-through penalty. Look, sometimes we can't see what the information is on the screen. That's the nature of broadcasting. It happens everywhere. It's just a thing. It is definitely a 2. I've just checked on YouTube. That is definitely a 2. So Cody Nikolakowski has been into the pit lane again. But I'm not seeing a drive-through penalty. But it certainly wasn't a stop, because it wasn't for long enough.
Yeah, definitely that was, it's not enough time, as you're saying, for it to be a full, especially if he stopped for fuel, as he definitely needs to get to the end. So it's definitely interesting ones, interesting strategies and things happening here at Spa. Here's this battle that we were seeing before. Van Roon has got past Grünig, but Grünig is coming back up towards Lecom, side by side in towards the braking zone. The Audi there on the inside holds on to that position. So I wonder if Van Roon got a good run out of La Source there, but nice battles here, a bit low down for P16.
Yeah, there are. Well, there are the big, large gaps up at the front. There are the little battles in the mid-back. Battling very hard, as he has done all through the race. I feel like you've seen him at every stage of the race, the start, middle, and towards the end as well. He's been battling away with various drivers across the grid. But Rosen is now in the pit lane. That's probably his splash and dash pit stop he is partaking in. He's come out in P10, and I don't think he's terribly far behind Rui Felipe, which is interesting, and not very far behind Botti either. I don't know, was that a drive-through? Because that seems like that was a very fast stop.
Maybe their splashes must be very, very fast. I don't know. Again, we're just also the next thing to clarify, as Bates has gone for a bit of a spin. We're also idiots. So if you are sat watching and thinking, I already know what's gone on here, obviously Cody Nikolakowski has been into the pit lane and has taken like 2 litres of fuel, and it's more than enough for him to do the end of the race. That's absolutely fine. Again, we are idiots. We don't know what we're doing. We're just sat here in the commentary booth talking about what's happening. Never trust the commentator's math or anything that we say. But what we do know is the fact, which is Kunze is leading, and in 14 minutes' time, we'll probably know who's going to win this race. So, hold tight, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I'm scared for... Well, if the pit lane is that short, then I'm scared for Mackenberg's race in terms of actually really gaining too much from this strategy. But I guess he has got some decent gaps behind. Well, yeah, he's got himself onto the podium, but I guess in that way it hasn't backfired, but then he also hasn't gained from it, and it has kept him out of... hasn't been battling with everyone in this second part of the race. Another driver that we, of course, know is doing that one is Greta, and not too far behind Parvan as well for that P4. So there's definitely a few positions to be sorted out in the final 14 minutes of this race. So that's only going to be about 6 or so laps to the end, and a lot still to be worked out.
Definitely Lapanek as well. Looking a little bit racy towards the end of the race. I mean, he's got a bit of a challenge at the moment. I think that's Botti. It is Botti to the inside for P7, and Botti, the Italian driver, who was third for so long in this race, is now through. He's going to try and work up towards Vigneron in front of him. The Frenchman doing very nicely indeed after 55 laps of this circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. That little battle, I think, with Rosen and Felipe is going to be interesting. And if Rosen has any pace left in him, he might be able to try and come up towards Lapanek and Botti. And speaking of Rosen, he's to the inside of Portuguese driver, and he is through. Is he? They're side by side. Oh no, one of them surely going to have to back out for this one.
Yeah, Rui Felipe does back out. He's done that a little bit earlier on. Yuval Rosen up then into 9th position. I'm seeing a few things that 20 seconds sounds about right for 3 litres of fuel, and with the pit lane speed, 3 laps of fuel. Which, to be fair, I mean, the fuel rate will probably be closer at 3 litres a second. So you're probably only talking about a 3-second stop when it comes to actual stationary time. I think the pit lane speed of it is actually quite fast around here. So, realistically speaking, I think Cody Nikolakowski's not gone for a spin at all. Again, we're idiots. So I think that is roughly the 20 seconds that that kind of makes sense on that one. So for Julian Kunze, almost certainly this victory is signed, sealed, and delivered. For Sven Mackenberg, was it Sven Mackenberg who finished in 3rd last year? Yeah. And again, the one-stop strategy is basically he's just copied and pasted the same race.
And guess who finished behind him last year? Was Kunze in 4th place, and ahead of him was Latkovsky. So 3 drivers there on the podium this time around were inside the top 4 last year as well. So they got good consistency around this track, although last year it was Drovosekov who won the race, of course not participating, at least in this split today. So
he's
definitely
not participating at all. If he's definitely not going to be a split.
Yeah, that's true, because it goes on the ranking, doesn't it? As Parvan and Greta, they're having a bit of a ding dong for what is currently 4th place. I think Greta's been able to get past. I know it's not, because Parvan's gone into the pit lane for his splash at the end of this race. So just 11 minutes to go. So it is very close. But as you say, if it's only 20 seconds, actually, if it is that short, that opens up the opportunity for it to be a 2-stop race, because that 20 seconds you can definitely sort of chase down with the lighter fuel loads and the undercut as such from those doing the 1-stop.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember. There were a couple who did that 1-stop. No, I think there was Sven Mackenberg and a couple of others.
Christian Greta was definitely one of them.
Yeah, I had a feeling Greta was one of them. So he's going to stay out. Parvan, Botti, Rosen, Felipe, Vigneron, Lapanek will be trying to chase him down as best they can. I think it's going to be tight. I think. I mean, they haven't lost, as we've said, very much time From that strategy, they're all kind of grouped together, aren't they? The gaps are large at the front, 28, 22, 14, 20 seconds between the top 5, but never know. Behind them, Parvan is close to Botti, and Felipe still close to Rosen, but Rosen is going to be hoping to gain time the cars in front, but that pace that he's shown so much throughout this race is starting to dip, as Kunze has now, he hasn't pitted yet, of course, but he does have a 28-second advantage, which he will hope to convert in 10 minutes' time, the race win.
Yeah, it won't be by 28 seconds. It'll probably be cut down to around about 8 seconds, maybe even slightly longer than that. But at the moment, Kunze's just... I mean, he is a fantastic driver, and we've seen that so many times when it comes to his consistency and stuff. Like, he's taken part at the highest level of esports on RaceRoom. We've seen that over a whole multitude of years. So it's not a shock to see Julian Kunze this strong. But man, he's been really strong today. Just hasn't really put a foot wrong. And again, that's not me trying anything because the commentator's curse doesn't exist, but it's just brutal. Am I the only one that's slightly irritated though, that his picture it was a little slide. It was a little slide, Cam. Let's not. Are you irritated over the fact that his picture is of a Mercedes AMG and he's driving a Bentley? That does irritate me slightly.
Yes and no, but as a driver, you look at the BOP for every track and you're just like, I'm going to drive the fastest one. Although the one thing about the Bentley that you always have to remember, as you saw from that shot there, is right-hand drive. And even being British myself, I cannot stand driving right-hand drive cars in the sim. I don't know what it is, it just feels wrong. So for the European drivers to think that the car is that strong that they also want to drive a right-hand drive car for 3 hours this evening, that's certainly some commitment, and just showing you how strong the Bentley is with 3 in the top 4 as it stands.
Yeah, it's a strong pick tonight, isn't it? That Bentley car, and it looks the big bag Bentley, I think, is
it's what I call it,
called it. Yeah, exactly. So it has been.
That's my thing. Get off of it.
Sorry, but yeah, they've done very well this evening. Kunze, Mackenberg, and Gröter. I mean, Kunze nearly did the one-stop in it. Mackenberg and Gröter will do a one-stop in it. Maybe that's something to do with. I mean, maybe a bit of a stretch, but a bit of a similarity. Finding the pattern, but yeah, a bit of the gaps opening up. We see a few fights going on. We're still waiting on that pit stop, but he is actually in the pits, so we're not waiting on that pit stop because he's there and he is taking that little bit of fuel that he needs to finish the race with. We'll have to see how close it is with Latkowski as he comes out of the box.
Yeah, certainly so. So Julian Kunze's already rolling, already to the end of pit lane, already out of pit lane, and already back into the race lead. You are right, by the way. The Bentley does have better fuel mileage. Is not the right answer. It's got a bigger tank, and so it's quite good when it comes to the distance it can go. And that's why, generally speaking, if you are going to one-stop, Bentley is more the kind of car you lean towards. We do see that a fair few times. It is the choice for doing so. And by the way, that's not just a thing on RaceRoom. That is the car itself. It is quite good for that. It has been seen multiple platforms, and also just generally speaking in the world of motorsport as well. It's what it's good for. And there's thankfully no stint timer. That's what I like to see from GT3 Racing. Hate a stint timer. Let's get that one thrown straight into the bin. Anyway, Julian Kunze leads, Nikola Latkowski behind in second position, and Sven Mackenberg. That seems to be your fairly secured podium. And to be fair, I don't see Christian Greta dropping 16 seconds back to Alessandro Botti. He'll be a little frustrated, the Italian, with the day to have been running up in the podium for pretty much the entire day. 6.5 minutes left to go in the race. Definitely not getting a podium.
And if we're only looking at the 20-odd seconds for the extra stop, and he's 17, 18 behind Gröter, he hasn't really caught much into that 20 seconds extra. In fact, in some ways he's lost because he was behind. So yeah, not quite how he would have wanted, but top 5 is still a solid result there. I would say from Botti. Of course, he had the battle of Rui Felipe, up his backside for most of the middle part of the race, but he managed to see him off in the end. And I don't think he should be too disappointed with that, but maybe just needs to look towards that one-stop strategy next time around. Certainly at least a potential to try and get some positions. But Greta and Mackenberg making that one stop work, it seems that they'll be able to hold on with that.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if in future races drivers will see how the one-stoppers worked, Mackenberg and Greta, and see that it has benefited them in terms of position, and maybe think about it themselves next time. I mean, these drivers often have a bit of a hunch of which car they enjoy and prefer driving, but with that Bentley saves a little bit more fuel and gains a little bit more time for the strategy, it might be an option that they might try and go for in future races. But I mean, the fact that we've been going 2 hours 19 minutes and the gap between Kunze and Latkovsky is only 7.7 seconds, I think it's quite impressive, because they have been basically time trialing the last 59 laps and they have come up very, very similar in terms of the times. So I mean, Latkovsky, you got to feel slightly bad for him as well. I mean, I don't think he's even been able to really attempt an actual overtake all race long. I think he's been in second quite literally from lights to 4 minutes 38 to go.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, as much as I say all this time about, like, Julian Kunze, esports, blah, 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 I list off, the fact he used to race in WTCC, WTCR, esports championships and stuff. Cody Nikola Latkovsky has been very strong, particularly in the last sort of 2-3 years, when it comes to taking part in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship, the DTM Esports Championship. He has been very, very strong as Cody Nikola Latkovsky at the highest levels on RaceRoom as well. So he's in that same kind of camp as Julian Kunze. Has been bested so far today, though, and that's just sometimes how it goes. There will be 2 laps left to go in this race, so we'll get ourselves comfortably into the 60s when it comes to laps completed, thus showing the speed of these drivers, the consistency they've put on. Not sure as to how many have been lapped by the mighty charge of Julian Kunze. I think it's up to around about 14th spot. I think he's got Kovalevsky, so I think it's 14th that he's lapped up to, which is, well, it's disgusting, really, isn't it?
Out of 35,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. That's 20 odd cars that he's lapped in that time. Just looking last year, we completed 62 laps in the race, but of course it might just come down to a couple of seconds here and there. Obviously that time around, Drovsekov leading that way, same cars GT3s, and Kunze having a very solid race out the front, but we'll have to see exactly how many laps he gets to. Just 3 minutes to go now, so in theory about 2 and a bit laps, so it depends exactly where he is on the track, of course being in turn 1. So yeah, it's going to be 2 more laps, this one and one more, for the driver on lap 60. So it's only going to be 61, I believe, so 1 lap shorter than last year, which is weird considering how strong it's been out the front, but that's sometimes how these races go.
Yeah, it is, and it's just year on year, maybe slight differences, not much in it between the pace, but I don't think Kunze will care about how many laps he's done. He'll just be pleased to get to the flag first. And, well, he should get to the flag first, of course, still got 2 laps to get around, you never know what's going to happen. But, yeah, a lot of racing has gone on, but not for the top guys. There's Kunze, customarily with absolutely no one in sight. It's basically been a private session from him, apart from when he's been lapping other cars this evening, and there's one just in front of him. I think that could be P13. He's coming up towards the lap, and it's the owner's power, who may be the next victim of the absolute purge of Julian Kunze through the well, they're not even back markers if they're in P13, just through the grid in lapping everybody. But yeah, impressive drive. It should be an impressive win.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you don't really see very much going wrong. And you know that Julian Kunze is not the kind of driver that will make a mistake here. He's just going to cruise around for the next 90 seconds. That timer will hit 0. He'll do another lap. He's on the penultimate one at the moment. And like I say, I will say the frantic, absolutely frantic racing we were having for about 2 hours in that has calmed down a lot for the final 24 minutes. The closest battle on circuit is Frank Van Roon versus Luca Vutric for 15th position on the road. That one separated by around about half a second. I think Luca D'Amico has just returned his way into pit lane on the final lap of the race. Doesn't have quite the level of fuel. Here comes Van Roon around the outside of Vutric. That's going to be a big send straight around Blanchimont. Not able to do so, not able to get past the BMW M4 just yet. A bit of a flash of the lights as well, as Van Roon this time will try to the outside going into the bus stop. The send from him on this occasion should come out on top. The big squeeze though coming from the BMW M4. The contact between them sees no position switch happen, and Luca Vutric is able to hang on to 15.
Yeah, fortunately for Van Roon there, he lost all that momentum as well, so he's possibly not going to be able to have a run. But here's Kunze, lap 20. Actually, it is lap 62 that we have got onto, because of course what I was looking at was laps completed, not laps on. So it is going to be the same amount of laps last time as last year, which you would expect with these drivers on the absolute limit of these cars. And he just has now, what's that? Just going to be about 6 kilometers or so to the end of this race, and just has to bring it home. As it stands, he's got a somewhat comfortable 6-second margin, so he doesn't need to push at all at this final lap. Can just enjoy the moment and come home to win the 2.4 hours of Spa.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable track to drive, isn't it, Spa? And I think he'll be enjoying this final tour of the circuit. He's probably spent quite a few hours in the last couple of weeks in preparation, then the laps in qualifying, and now the laps in the race, and all 62 of them he will have completed by the end of the race, and an impressive drive by the end. I think especially in the top 10, I think a lot of battles have died down by the end, but Van Roon and Vutric still going at it, but with just a few more corners to go. Will Van Roon go for it? He will go for it inside of Pouon, and I think maybe finally he's got that one done for P15.
Yeah, I mean, Vutric, I'm pretty sure will try and send something back down the inside in that final sector of the circuit. But Van Roon will try and pull his way away with only a few corners left to go. He's got to navigate Fagnes, then Campus, and then, of course, out Stavolo onto this section of the circuit, which is being navigated by Julian Kunze. He's got to the back of Jonas Parren. I'm not sure he'll be able to work his way through, but as he comes down into that final chicane, into the bus stop, it's been 2 hours and 24 minutes of perfection from the German. He had pole position, he's got fastest lap, and now as he navigates his way through the bus stop, he also has a race victory. The Spa 2.4 hour of 2023 on the RaceRoom Racing Experience platform goes the way of Julian Kunze, 6.8 seconds clear of Cody Nikola-Latkovsky, who's also put on quite the display. The pair of those going for a 2-stop strategy versus the 1-stoppers in Sven Mackenberg and Christian Greta, who look to round their way onto the podium. Sven Mackenberg first in 3rd position, and then Christian Greta in 4th place, managing to navigate their way past Alessandro Botti. Fantastic strategical play. Maybe they didn't quite have the pace to battle for the race win. Maybe they didn't quite have the pace to battle up there in the podium, but Sven Mackenberg is going to grab one nonetheless, just courtesy of good strategy, good consistency, and playing their cards right. Good stuff.
Yeah, Greta, as you say, with Mackenberg doing the strategic game, which is what you have to do. Botti will come just behind, well, I say just behind them, about 15 seconds behind them. He's possibly going to be the slightest bit disappointed with that one, getting that 5th place, having been in the podium places for so long. But these races are so difficult, they're so competitive. He should be happy with that one. And also Parvan, he's been up there the whole race, and we really basically just enjoyed watching him here. Unfortunately, had that little bit of spin, but coming across in P6, definitely enjoyed the race. And Rosen from the back of the grid to the middle, back to the back again, and up to 7th place. That must be coming up towards 50 overtakes for position that man had today. He's going to be really happy with that one.
Definitely will, and I think he might also be thinking, if there wasn't that contact in the opening laps, could he have got much further up? I think Parvan may have been in sight for him. But either way, he's definitely going to be happy with 7th, I would imagine. But Kunze with a fantastic drive. Felipe just crossing the line. Vigneron and Lapanik as well going to be joining and finishing and rounding out the top 10 in this race. But a great result for Kunze and a great drive.
Yeah, certainly. So here are confirmation of the provisional standings in the race. Julian Kunze taking that victory and the fastest lap as well to boot. Cody Nikola-Latkovsky and Sven Mackenberg in 3rd position. Christian Greta in 4th, Alessandro Botti, and then Daniel Parvin, Yuval Rosen, Rui Felipe, Vigneron and Lapanik, the top 10 in the race. Of course, those behind, as we'll see them filter their way through. Kevin Sanchez in 11th, Luca D'Amico, Jonas Parren, Kovalevsky, Van Roon, Vuthrik, and the likes behind. Grunig in 17th position, Polgar, and then Florian Vuthrik, Marius Zabdir in 20th position in the race. He'll be pretty disappointed with how the race has gone. Ornelis in 21st, Marvin Mackenberg down in 22nd after a difficult day. Then Herzog, Coughlin, Braun, as well as Lukic and Bates. Retirements from the race, Norman Norms, and then Lazarenko in the final stages of the race. Luis Gamero as well in 30th, and one of our retirements. And of course, those even further back, Rokas to be, Dubois, Tokar, Tatara, and Bjorn Peter both got disqualified from the race, those final two, Tatara and Peter. So unfortunately, some struggles for those for breaching incident point limits through the race. Well, those three on the podium. So we did have a little bit of a test of this graphic, by the way, earlier on in the, like before we went live, and we joked that well, if that's the podium, this thing's rigged, and that was the podium that we actually showed when we were testing the graphic beforehand. And so, well, there we go. It's all rigged then. Clearly, Cam.
I mean, it obviously, if you look at it from sort of lap, 3, 4 onwards, we maybe a little bit further into that. We kind of maybe expected this podium, but that doesn't mean to say the race was boring by any means. It was an awesome fight, a time trial fight between Kunze and Latkovsky, and then of course Mackenberg with the strategy as well, and in behind. But yeah, congrats to those three getting on the podium. They'll be very pleased with that, I'm sure. And that is another RaceRoom special event done for the year, and they really have some good turnouts and some good battles on track.
Certainly do. I mean, Dara once again joining us for one of these. What's your thoughts on this race? It's been pretty frantic from start to finish.
Yeah, I think we didn't know where to look for most of that race. There were battles absolutely everywhere. In the middle, it calmed down a bit, and towards the end, the gaps opened up. But even still, with those drivers coming through, I mean, I don't think we were short on entertainment from some of those drivers working their way up through the field. Rosen being, I think, the main culprit of that tonight.
Certainly so. Well, again, as we wrap up another one of these fantastic races, I will just touch on another couple of things. Again, the RaceRoom Ranked Championship will continue this week on Wednesday. Dara Thacker will be back on that one with Ewan O'Leary, because it's time for the KTM GTX Trophy to take their way around Road America, around Elkhart Lake. I can't wait for that one. But of course, as I did mention a little bit earlier, the Porsche pack as well will release next week after that second round of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship. So something definitely to look forward to. I know there's been a lot of positivity in the community looking forward to that brand new content coming out on RaceRoom Racing Experience. If you're not a member already, go ahead and download it on Steam. Get yourselves involved in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship, and of course these ranked events also. Maybe one day you can work your way onto a broadcast and get some mediocre commentary from the three of us. I've been Lewis McGlade, Cameron Rogers been alongside, Dara Thacker as well. Of course, a big thanks to Captain Coffee and Christo, who's been bringing us the broadcast as well. We hope to see you on a Wednesday evening, but until then, have a very warm bye-bye.
Do you also feel the same as this car enthusiast? He's reached his vehicle dream, but suddenly the original black wheels seem a bit boring. A colourful detail would add a lot more pep. And a little eye-catcher to match the paint would make the car perfect. Customization options don't only transform the wheel to visually match the vehicle, but also provides one-of-a-kind look on the road. The wheel color, rim protectors, center caps, valve caps, and even the wheel bolts can be configured and designed individually using style components of the new BBS Unlimited wheel system. And here's how it works. The BBS Unlimited base wheels are available in a total of 8 different colors, whether it be a glossy, satin, or polished finish, or from a deep indigo blue to racing gold to a rich bronze. Rim protectors are a colorful detail to visually enhance the wheel while preventing damage from curb contact. In addition, the rim protectors can easily and quickly be replaced and renewed at any time. In total, 6 different designs are available. The center cap completes the wheel. So how cool would it be if it could also be customized? BBS Unlimited Style makes this possible. It's available in 56mm and 70.6mm diameters and can be applied in a variety of ways with the BBS logo. The center cap is available in 2D or 3D embossing, as well as in several color variations. And with the 3D rotation cover, the BBS logo remains visible to everyone, even when the car is in high gear. The valve caps complement the wheel in 6 different colors. This gives the individual wheel an even more coherent look. You can even choose the wheel bolt in the last step to match the wheel. Available in black, silver, and even titanium. With the help of the BBS Unlimited Style components, you're able to create a work of art out of a conventional wheel, according to your own wishes and ideas. Just take a look at our configurator, and after a few clicks you can already start designing the perfect wheel for your vehicle. Do you have any questions about customization? Then contact the wheel expert now.